The story today begins with a boy named Bell, who has a rather strange love for his sister and wants to do everything to protect her. However, it's the same old story. He is a loser who gets expelled from the family, trains with a Buddhist monk, and returns overpowering, ready to take on everyone. But upon arriving home, he sees the city on fire, and when he finds his sister, she has already moved on to her next reincarnation. In that moment of rage, he is attacked from behind and eliminated, reincarnating on the exact day he is supposed to receive his divine weapon. But hold on, I haven't explained what a divine weapon is. Some weapons can only be found in the hands of those who are privileged. They are divine weapons. These weapons are the materialization of a person's soul. Thanks to this, these equipment are endowed with unique abilities. A family belonging to the nobility once defeated the evil god, the Catastrophe Duchy. Since birth, its members possess everything: bodies suited for combat, exceptional talent for battle, and divine weapons that are truly incredible. The protagonist was born into this family, which wishes to one day become a great hero, who will proudly wield the divine weapons he possesses. At least that's how it should have happened. But at the oracle ceremony, when someone's divine weapon is manifested, he ended up discovering that he would have none. It was the first case in the history of his family where this happened, becoming the first major failure. Because of this, he was seen as inferior and faced constant humiliation, being called a public embarrassment. The second son of the family, Zane, managed to be a natural jerk for him. Useless people like the protagonist, who couldn't have a divine weapon, didn't belong there. He used this as a reason to unintentionally massage the protagonist's face, performing temporary facial harmonizations on him. Jessica and Sarah also watched this and did nothing. The former seemed to enjoy the humiliation sessions as well. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't like what was happening. She tried to intervene in some way, but Jessica made her trip and fall to the ground. She did this because the girl was called there to observe and witness what happens to those who are weak and without a future. Seeing Jessica stepping on his friend's head, the protagonist became worried, but he was in the middle of the involuntary massage session and was reminded of that. His aggressor said that filthy hybrids are very attached to each other. They are the children of concubines, which is why they are constantly humiliated by others, being called mutts. After being beaten, he apologized for not being able to defend Sarah as he was too weak. With a broad smile on her face, the girl said he shouldn't worry, as she promised she would always stand by him. But the boy didn't want to remain in that situation. He told her he would become stronger and stronger, even if he didn't possess a divine weapon, also promising that he would protect the girl with his own life. After they embraced, she thanked him for making that promise, not being able to live up to that promise, as a few days later, he ended up being banished from the family. Immediately, he began to lament, flooded with rage, for he knew she would be pursued. He needed to be strong enough to take her out of that place. Mastering skills with a normal weapon is useless against a knight who has a divine weapon. That's why he needs to become even stronger. In fact, he has no other option available. He presented at the counter of that shop a bag full of money showing the gold coins. He said he would take one weapon of each type. An unusual request. The seller thought the boy was about to embark on a personal war. 2 years had passed since he had been exiled from his family. Riding a horse, he continued traveling. The boy had learned something, but he still didn't have a divine weapon. Before him were several monsters. He had various weapons he could use to defeat them. He was also eager to finally start the fight, as he had developed mastery over all of them, becoming formidable. He even possessed a firearm, ideal for collecting money from debtors. There was nothing the creatures could do against him. At the end of the fight, a hooded man seemed to be watching everything, until he decided to speak to the boy. He wanted to know if that boy always carried all those weapons, and if this was the concern of someone who was unable to have a divine weapon. He had already forgotten the trap he had set and wanted to find someone he could trust. Someone with enough potential to eventually become a great hero. That conversation seemed like the ramblings of a madman. But an intense blue glow appeared in the man's hand, shooting a bolt towards the boy. A shining object was in front of him. It looked like a weapon, leaving the protagonist genuinely impressed with what was happening. The man said he would trust the boy, leaving that weapon with him. Still embedded in the ground, the object shone as it released energy. He thought it might be a sword and began to approach it, until he finally touched it with his hand finally. He realized that what he had received was just the sheath of the sword. The divine sheath of Avalon, an item that allows its user to store their divine weapon and hand it over to another person. Passed down from generation to generation, it now holds the weapon of those who were the 5 greatest in history. The boy's determination is focused on gaining complete mastery of that item. 3 years had passed since that event. He is with his mentor, and a dragon flies over the sky. The creature advances toward them. Furious, it had prepared its flames, ready to annihilate the living from the face of the earth, but that heat is not concerning for the protagonist, who is not impressed. Immediately invoking Avalon, the white sheath appears in his hand. He holds it as if he were drawing a sword concentrated. He commanded the power to manifest, until the windshield of Achilles appeared in his hands, powerful enough to generate an effective protective barrier against the dragon's attack to attack. He invoked the hammer of the storm, Mjolnir, jumping onto the dragon with the hammer positioned to deliver a tremendous blow. The strike was forceful and crushing, sending the creature's head toward the ground. A single blow was enough. The mentor said he had mastered Avalon. He said he could go to his sister now, for not even an level Paladin would be able to stop him. Hearing those words, hope filled the protagonist's gaze with great joy. He said he would do as instructed. 5 years had passed since he was banished, and now he has plenty of power to rescue his sister. As he advances, he hopes that Sarah is safe, for he is on his way to her, to rescue her from that despicable place. However, upon arriving in the region, he saw that fire had taken over everything. He does not know what could have happened, becoming immediately very worried. Amidst the fire, he saw some banners raised. He soon realized that those symbols belonged to another duchy, to Hrothwinter. A civil war was underway. He enters the castle, searching for his sister, desperate, approaching a large gate that is already ajar, but upon entering the hall, he is confronted with a lamentable scene. There was a body lying on the ground, severely injured. It cannot be that this has happened. That is the body of his beloved sister. He picked her up, very worried. The girl showed no reaction. It is possible that the worst has already been consumed. He remembered the words he had said to her, and the promise he was unable to keep. Completely desolate, a desperate scream filled the air of that place. After perfecting his power, he was unable to accomplish what had motivated him all these years. A bolt of energy was coming toward him, passing through the boy's body. His chest had been pierced. There was another presence with them. That threatening mana surely belongs to a warrior at S level. The man knows that this is Bel, who had already been banished, but the boy cannot understand how he had been recognized. But that no longer matters, for he would keep his sister company in the afterlife. Definitely, this is the person who reaped his sister's life. Raising his blade, he was prepared to end the protagonist, who was completely consumed by destructive grief. But already weakened, he can do nothing. After these nefarious events, he found himself before the priest once again. Looking at his hands, he does not understand how he had been sent to that place. That stained glass is known to him. It is in his cathedral. The ceremony is underway, and he is sure that he had died. If this is the ceremony, it can only mean that he has returned in time. The priest instructed him to join his hands and visualize his own divine equipment. But the boy knows what happened the first time. At that point in his life, he had not yet inherited Avalon, and was already hoping to be banished to restart his journey once again. Only something different happened, which surprised him. There is no doubt what is before his eyes is Avalon. He believes he will do everything again this time. With the power he possesses, he will be able to change destiny. Now is when his life will truly begin. This is unusual even for the priest, who has never seen anything like this and has something to say about it. Anticipating what the priest would say, he knows that fighting with a sheath would not be possible. Caught off guard, the priest said that was not what he was thinking of saying. Even so, the boy, who overflowed with confidence, warned him that he should not worry. That is the best divine weapon that exists. Already in the castle corridors, he is going after his sister, because if he has returned to the past, she must still be alive. His past life is still very recent, and he is very worried about Sarah. Finally, he managed to reach her room door. Sarah greeted him with a wide smile. Indeed, she is alive and healthy, and she radiates the same beauty. He remembered seeing her brother, whom she did not expect. The girl went to him to give him a hug, for she also wants to know how his ceremony went. The boy does not respond. as he is very happy that she is still alive. That hug was so sudden that Sarah wondered if something had happened to her brother. He still regrets not being able to save her in his other life. The memory of the pain is still very intense for him. He will not allow his sister to go through that suffering again. It didn't take long for the girl to complain about the hug. As it was too tight, even so, everything was fine. She was happy to have received that hug. Only then did she notice what was on the boy's face. Tears were streaming down his eyes, and she still does not know the reason. Running her hand over his head, she comforted him and said that everything would be all right, for they have each other. Hearing those words warmed the heart of the boy who, apparently, grew up in Alabama. The jerk brother also entered the room, noticing that the mutts were getting along very well. He had already been looking for Belle for some time. That is Zane, a great sadist. The jerk said he had already heard the news his brother obtained a peculiar item during the ceremony. Apparently, the priest really enjoys meddling in others' lives. A true gossip. Belle confirmed that he had received a sheath. His brother cannot hide his disdain, laughing uncontrollably. He said that a sheath is not a weapon and serves very well for that poor soul. He would never be able to fight with that, and the two gathered there are indeed very foolish. The protagonist had to hold his hand, as the urge was to perform an orthodontic procedure without anesthesia on the jerk. So, he gave him a chance to take back those words. But the jerk did not understand that stance. He was not used to seeing his half-brother react. Then, the protagonist warned him once again to take back what he had said. Feeling that it was a challenge, the jerk became even more filled with hatred. Now, he would teach a lesson to the son of the concubine. For the jerk's complete misfortune, the protagonist has years of hard training with his mentor, landing a solid blow to his stomach so that he reflects on his actions from then on. The poor boy only did not regurgitate his lunch because the food was already closer to the end than the beginning. He fell to the ground, prostrated over himself. Perhaps he felt the blow to his liver, and his blood pressure dropped. Looking at the jerk, he advised him not to threaten Sarah again, or he could end up being forcibly taught to be more polite. The jerk says that his half-brother is a bastard, and now he was going to escalate the violence with his divine weapon. He promised to make his brother beg for forgiveness as he would scorch his skin. Seeing that the jerk wanted a serious fight, then, it was all good. He warned Sarah to step back, as things were going to get quite entertaining now. But he reassured her first, as everything would be all right. Preparing for battle, he summoned the powerful Avalon into his hand. His brother does not believe he can be defeated with an object that is not even a weapon, for he is already a level E paladin. A bastard would never stand a chance against him. That is actually relevant. Paladins are divided into levels. Everything depends on the strength they possess. Upon receiving divine armament, they automatically go to level F. Being able to channel mana into the armament, they rise to level E from level D upwards. That same mana can be channeled into special attacks. To go beyond level B, it is necessary to know how to use the unique abilities of that equipment. It is bizarre that the jerk boasts about being at level E, as he still has a lot of development to do. His exaggerated confidence only makes the jerk even more irritated. Being even more provocative, he said that his brother was being very cute. That had been the last straw. He was going to attack the mutt in a devastating manner. Sarah became worried, as she was sure things could get complicated. Bringing his hands to the sheath, he summoned the sword of light, to be called Caliban, appeared before them. A truly formidable sword. The fool couldn't believe it, as the flames from his weapon were ineffective against it, not to mention that he had no idea what that sword was that had appeared. The counterattack was enough to make the fool lose his balance. Even more surprising is that his divine weapon was cut by that sword. The boy watches, terrified, understanding that he has been completely subdued, still unable to comprehend what happened. He is sure that there was nothing in that sheath. Approaching him, the protagonist wants to know if he is satisfied, or if he wishes to beg for forgiveness now as the good loser he is. He said he was deceived that he didn't know the boy was armed, because if he had known, he wouldn't have attacked, since he is a coward. He was still able to threaten him, saying he wouldn't forget this. Fleeing the room, scared and with his underwear completely obliterated, the protagonist made sure to follow him, as they had not finished what they had started. In his hand now is a fire-breathing lead shooter, the Ragnarok. With the fool in his sights, he took a single shot. The poor soul tries to escape, realizing that the shot had passed too close to his face. It hit the wall in front of him, contemplating the hole left by the bullet. He became even more frightened. Everything was becoming increasingly confusing for him. It doesn't make sense that he now has a different weapon, as he had just used a sword. It is impossible for him to have more than one divine weapon. The protagonist advised him not to forget this. He shouldn't provoke Sira again. In any case, it is up to him to choose what he will do from then on, and the fool no longer has any underwear to destroy. His fear continues to grow. With coldness in his gaze like a lone shark collecting, he warned that the consequence of the fool's actions could earn him a hole in his forehead. Desperate, the fool ran away to save his own life, while the protagonist stored his divine weapon. Sira, who had seen all of this, was utterly impressed. She was fine and wanted to know if those weapons were her brother's divine armament. Then he reminded her that he had already warned her she could leave everything in his hands. The girl thought that was really cool, and what the protagonist desires is to continue protecting that beautiful smile. He would never lose to anyone again elsewhere. The fool went to tell what had happened. He had gone to his father to tell the Duke that he had been humiliated like a dog. The Duke is interested that Belle has received several divine weapons. The fool warned that this is not normal and that Belle must have made a pact with Beelzebub, the loan shark. And because of that, they should banish him from that place immediately. But the Duke didn't even hear those words, as he was too entertained by the possibilities of having a powerful heir. Rising from his throne and completely ignoring the boy, asking where his father was going, he learned that he was going to see Belle. He needs to check for himself if this is indeed true. After that event, the boy needs to recover a bit. He managed to win the battle, but that is still the body of a child. He was quite exhausted, as he is still not able to control his mana with mastery. That should have been a fire shot, but it ended up being a conventional shot. He is definitely at level F. He still needs to improve his strength, but he knows he cannot remain at this level of power. He began to remember the battle he had seen. They were the Rothwinsers. They are a family with whom they have an old rivalry. Anything could have been the spark for that conflict. Certainly the one responsible for attacking him must be from that family. But this time, things will be different. He will defend his sister. And for that, he also needs to be more respected in his own family. The doors to his room were opened, and he has no idea why his father was there. Galleon had accomplished great feats in the great battle that took place 20 years ago. Alone, he was able to fight against the evil god. He carved his path through the dark continent. Using his sword to do so, he is recognized by many as the of the sword, and by his father's side as the little fool. Now he understands the reason why his father came there. He is definitely being accused of something, but this is the perfect situation for him. The fastest way to be valued is to be noticed by the head of the family. Bowing, he showed respect to the Duke. The old man said that the boy had changed a lot since the last time they saw each other, but on that occasion, he came to him as a father and asked him to be more relaxed. Full of maturity, he said it is not possible, as one word is enough to be misunderstood, and he must be responsible in front of the Duke. The old man was enamored by the maturity of the little brat. He asked the boy to stand up, and so he did. He would do as the boy recommended and remain there as a Duke immediately. His presence became overwhelming. The Duke's pressure is frightening. He learned that his sons fought, and conflicts between siblings are forbidden. Belle showed a bit of regret, and the little jerk believes he will see the bastard punished. No one in that house can stand before the Duke's power, but the boy had already established himself. He said that he and his younger sister were being harassed in light of the confession. The Duke asked if his orders had been violated due to childishness. The boy confirmed once again, and the Duke wants to know if he truly does not regret disobeying his orders. Belle said that abandoning those he loves is an even greater disgrace for a paladin. He would fight to defend his sister, even if the opponent were his older brother. That is the path of the knight he wishes to tread. The Duke pointed the tip of his sword at him, asking what he would do if the opponent were him. But the boy maintained his stance. He would not hesitate, even if the opponent were the Duke himself. The old man tried to intimidate him with a glare, but ended up liking his son's resilience. He said he would let this incident be overlooked, to the little jerk's discontent, and, looking at him, he was disappointed that Zane had harassed his own sister, and subsequently lost a fight. The little jerk did not expect to receive this reversal. He said that he should be ashamed of that, and not present himself before him. He understands Belle's choice, and that it was brave of him to say that, Knowing the consequences of his words, the boy apologized for being impetuous, but his father said that this is the attitude he expects from knights of catastrophe. Now, he wishes for the boy to show him his power by revealing his divine weaponry. He would do as he had been asked. A blue light began to emerge from between his hands, and the Duke was even more impressed. That sheath is Avalon, his divine weapon. But for the Duke, this makes no sense at all. He had heard rumors of the legendary weapon that carries the spirit of the original Paladin, which is wielded by great heroes throughout history. He asked him if it was true that he had used a sword and a firearm, and Bell confirmed. He said that these weapons reside in Avalon. To prove his words, he showed both to his father. Immediately, the Duke began to wonder if this was really possible, and to his total surprise, he heard that the boy can only use 2 at a time, but that there are 3 more weapons in the sheath. Definitely, that son of his is to be the next hero. He told him that he has no interest in the weak, but that from now on, he has high expectations for his future. Leaving his room, he asked him to keep working very hard. The doors finally closed, and the boy could rest, for that pressure was overwhelming. He just needs to keep striving, but it's a shame he has a child's body. He needs to reach level D as quickly as possible, and for that, he needs to defeat monsters to absorb more mana. He would go to the nearest forest to hunt some orcs. Night finally came, and the head of one of the creatures is lying on the ground, without its body. In the forest, the annihilation continues. There was nothing the creatures could do, for something much fiercer was there. The beast's teeth are sharp as iron swords. It roars furiously, establishing its dominance. That forest certainly brings nostalgic memories. After being banished in his past life, he trained there for some time, but something feels strange. He has been walking for a while, and has not encountered any monsters yet. Amid the bushes, a creature watches him. He finally finds some orcs, but they are a bit disassembled. Their pieces are now part of the forest's decoration. It is a scene as frightening as it is unusual, and while trying to understand, he is startled by a terrifying sound. The boy looks back to understand what it is. An attack was already underway, and he had to defend himself. The force was greater than his, throwing him far away. This was not the creature he wished to encounter. That is definitely Fenrir. The reason there are no monsters in the forest is a level D creature. He has almost no mana and must be at most level E. It would be good if he could get out of there immediately. But, looking into the creature's eyes, he knows he would be executed immediately. The boy needs to stay very alert to avoid becoming dog food. Being caught off guard, he realized that the monster's speed is greater than he imagined. He had to throw himself away from the attack. In his hands, he summoned the fire-spitting pistol. He fired a few shots at the creature, which was able to dodge all of them. Now, he is in trouble for sure since his mana is still low. The spells are not very fast. The firearm will not be effective. He needs to try something else. With the sword in hand, he charged at his attacker. The paw full of sharp claws is a formidable threat, but the boy managed to dodge that devastating attack, and because of that, he found an opening. He struck at the creature, but it managed to dodge as well. He needs to rethink his strategy. That is a real risk he is facing. If he were at the height of his power, the forest dog would have already been annihilated. The wolf lunges at him once again, furious. Bell knows he cannot match that speed, so he had to stand still to defend against that attack. And because of that, he ended up taking some damage. He had been cornered, and now he cannot escape the center of that barrage of attacks. Little by little, he was being subdued by the creature, which advances toward him, ready to have its afternoon snack. Remembering that he had just reincarnated, he could not allow his life to end so prematurely. He needed to summon Achilles' shield. This way he could defend himself and attack. However, the creature's agility is formidable, and he was caught off guard from the side. The boy, upon falling, let the shield slip from his hands. The fight cannot continue at this pace, or he will end up becoming the food for that aggressive dog. The weapons he had used so far were completely useless, and using the hammer against it will also be difficult, as it has attacks that are too slow. He only has one weapon left to try. With no choices, he needs to use it immediately. The creature is ready to take his life. The boy closes his eyes, concentrating about to be hit. He called Aegis to him, but the creature's blow had already been executed unexpectedly. Nothing happened. A gauntlet is in his hand, surrounded by dark energy. He didn't want to have to use it, but this is better than dying a second time. The creature is prepared to attack, only the battle had already ended. The boy has also become much faster. With the hammer in hand, he is on top of the creature. It will not be able to keep up with him now, and the hammer was already prepared to crush skulls. A precise and crushing blow struck the creature, which writhes in agony as its teeth are rearranged in its mouth. Aegis is the gauntlet of darkness, enhancing the physical strength of its user, but that is not all that happens to those who use it. He begins to hear a voice giving him orders to destroy. The wolf remains alive, and angrier time passes, and the user only grows stronger, and he desires to take lives, eagerly waiting for the creature to approach him, dodging all the attacks coming his way. Now, it is the wolf that is at a disadvantage, and the boy seems to be very entertained by it. Finally, the wolf no longer belongs to the land of the living. It is a relief for the protagonist that he was able to end that swiftly. That weapon cannot be uncoupled in combat, and its effect becomes more intense as time passes, sinking its user into darkness. Now it remains to be seen why there was a Fenrir in that forest. While he was thinking, he saw that the hammer was different. It seemed to be completely charged with energy. By defeating the creature, he will be able to use its attributes. Defeating powerful creatures is better than defeating weak monsters. He can't wait to test that out in the castle garden. His sister enjoys the afternoon under the shade of a tree. Finally, the flower crown was completed. She hopes her brother likes that gift, but someone snatched the crown from her hands. The girl said that the flower crown is horrible, but that it is suitable for a filthy girl like the one who made it. That damned one is named Jessica. She wants to know what Spencer thinks about it. The bizarre-looking boy agrees with Jessica. He is there just to obey her. As she threw the flower crown into the air, it was immediately destroyed. Spencer used a whip for that. Sarah did not like that, but she is defenseless. Jessica is bored. There is nothing to do there. With a weapon in hand, she invited Sarah to go with her because it is time for her to practice a bit to improve her aim. Firing a shot at the girl, who shrank back, frightened. Bell had appeared, defending the shot with his sheath, stating that he would play with Jessica. Sarah is surprised as she did not see him arrive. In fact, she is completely oblivious to her surroundings, never seeing anyone approach. Bell said he was also looking for an excuse to test his divine weaponry, only Jessica did not understand what was happening. No mutt would stand in her way. Bell is too busy trying to comfort his sister and telling her that everything will be alright, and now he has something to do with the sassy girl. The boy with the terrible hair tried to position himself in an intimidating manner. He knows that this boy is a kind of servant to Jessica, so he made a point of showing himself to him as the Duke's son, but he would not show respect to someone who is the son of a concubine. That only made the protagonist irritated. Jessica wants to know why he is so confident, since he is weak and got lucky beating Zane. They believe that the protagonist was lucky and that Zane was careless and using only a sheath as a weapon. He must be the weakest of the weak. Closing his eyes, he stated that it is better for her to see for herself if what he has is luck or talent. Jessica, who did not expect all of this, became anxious, ordering Spencer to take care of that trash quickly, something he would do with great pleasure. Wherever his whip touched, ice formed. Even so, Bell was not impressed. Spencer is a drank paladin and has an ice whip as divine weaponry, and he is much stronger than the loser who is only at A rank, but the protagonist is the protagonist. The boy said he would freeze the legs so that his victim could not escape, and then the arms and body until he could not move anymore, ending with slaps to his face until he became unrecognizable. Bell said that he talks too much, and now the extra will be reminded that he is an extra. Spencer recommended that he not be underestimated, and now he would turn him into a popsicle. The whip was already heading towards Bell, but the boy was able to dodge easily. Jessica does not believe he was capable of that. For a drank paladin, he is not bad, but he is still an extra. And the protagonist trained hard in his past life that was nothing more than a child's pastime. Sarah was even more impressed. Her brother seemed to be dancing, while Spencer became deeply irritated, saying that his victim only knows how to run. Then, Bell would show him that he was not fleeing from now on. He would no longer dodge. Everyone present was surprised by this overwhelming confidence. Bell wants to see if the sassy one can fulfill his threats. Spencer succumbed to the provocation and charged for the attack, and now he would freeze him completely. The whip lunged towards a Belle who was standing with arms wide open, striking several times. But nothing happened. Sarah was very worried. The ice had finally formed his arms and legs were frozen now. If he cannot move, it is time for Spencer to attack his face. Belle wants to know if that is all he is capable of doing. Because if it is his turn to be the attacker. He immediately called for Ragnarok and the firearm appeared in his hand for the sassy one. It is impossible that he has two divine weapons to free himself from the ice. Belle began to release his mana. Now he is free to move around freely. Jessica does not believe that Belle was able to do that. It is not possible that he has two divine armaments, in addition to using his attributes in that way. And now, it is time to bring punishment until he says enough, firing intense flames at him. Spencer knows he is in trouble. He tried to protect himself using the ice whip, covering his body, believing that would be enough to block the approaching flames. Belle knows that it won't be difficult at all, since the bullet completely pierced that block of ice. Spencer cannot believe he will be violently oppressed. The projectile struck his chest forcefully. The force of the impact did not penetrate him but caused interesting damage. He fell to the ground, to Jessica's terror. The mutt destroyed the ice and knocked down a rank paladin, and since she is at a rank, she knows she has no chance. The protagonist looks at her and says that it is all over now. The girl invokes her divine weapon. She told him not to come any closer, but the fear is so intense that she cannot wield the weapon without trembling. She fired several shots at him but hit none. Desperate, she begged him not to come any closer, but her feet were hesitant. She fell on her own, as her fear was the most abundant thing in that place. Before her stands someone who could end her life if he wished. Being categorical, he recommended that she not bother Sarah again. The girl is unable to respond, as she is paralyzed. All she could do was flee that place while she still had time. Sarah goes to her brother, very grateful. She wants to know if the whip had hurt him, but he says that Spencer is so weak that it is almost pitiful. Sarah praised Belle's strength, who said he is only strong enough to protect her. He showed her the flower crown he had made, but the other one had been destroyed. Placing it on Belle's head, he thanked him for always being there to protect her. Belle received a gift from his sister. One day he will make the entire nation honor that kind soul. The problem is that everyone there despises the children of concubines. Improving his worth will be difficult. He needs to be respected, and for that, there is something he needs to achieve immediately. Outside the palace stands the Duke. He is meditating while wielding his sword. His concentration is truly impressive. After a while he executed some cuts in the air. He was able to cut the falling leaves. Only then did he notice that Belle had approached him. He asked what the boy wanted, walking over to him. He had come to ask the Duke for permission. Interested, he asked what the boy wanted to request. Before asking, he knelt before the Duke. The Duke was impressed by all that formality. He wants to take the admission exam for level C. The Duke seems to be interested in the boy's request. He said he would like to serve the king as a member of his household for the duchy to continue being recognized. His family has obligations to fulfill with the royal family, such as providing escorts and eliminating monsters. Doing this is the fastest way for him to gain status within his own family. This way, he will achieve results by completing difficult tasks to get the best tasks. He needs to take this exam. Looking at the boy, the Duke realized he has great ambitions. But he made it clear that it is still too early for him to take this exam, becoming a complete paladin even before reaching level C, and at the moment, he is only at level F as he has just received his divine weapon. He should focus at first on the exam for level E. What the Duke did not expect to see is that the boy had something to show. Showing that Fong to him, he asked if it was enough to change his mind. The Duke knows exactly what that is. It is a Fong from Fenrir. Immediately, he asked how the boy managed to obtain that item. He showed one of his divine weapons. Belle explained that it was a bit difficult, but he was able to tame that stubborn mutt. Seeing the energy that enveloped that hammer, the Duke realized that the boy can already use tributes. Moreover, he was able to defeat a creature of level D. The boy is truly strong and should be capable of taking the level C exam. He would allow the boy to take the exam under one condition. He should not even consider the possibility of disappointing the duchy. Filled with confidence and gratitude, Belle assured him that he would never do that. Instead of the test, he noticed that there were several candidates there. This is due to the fact that level C is a wall for many people completely insurmountable. The little boy draws the attention of the candidates present. Many of them are already adults, while he is just a child. He had approached the exam reception. The attendant wanted to know who he was and if he was accompanied by his father, but she was impressed to find out that he was there to take the exam. She recommended that he come back again when he was older. The boy asked not to be treated like a child, as he is also a paladin. While they were talking, someone approached Bell, asking him to stop playing Paladin. Little kids like him shouldn't be in that place. He should leave immediately. The protagonist doesn't even know what this person's problem is, but it will certainly be a problem. The others present know exactly who this figure is. His name is Lennox, and he is currently the strongest level D Paladin. It is said that his divine weapon, the Windsword, makes 8 cuts every time it is wielded, a truly impressive ability, and he already has many fans. Lennox warned that if the child is going to take the exam, he should at least be as good as he is. And he doubts whether the protagonist even possesses a divine weapon holding the sheath at his waist. He said it was there with him. Noticing that it was just a sheath, the young man began to laugh, imagining that it must be impossible to fight with such trash. Other bystanders started to laugh too, not imagining that there was trash as divine weaponry and being grateful that they weren't that useless. Lennox said he doesn't care if an ignorant child wants to end his own life that way, but he was bothered that his participation in the exam puts him on the same level, as if they were equals. Saying goodbye, he warned that the little trash should go back to his mother's lap. With the session of annoyance over, the boy told the secretary to register him immediately. She wants to know if the boy is sure about this, but he is unyielding. For that, a recommendation from a knight of level B or higher is necessary, in addition to being at level D. With that letter of recommendation, he should be able to participate. This should resolve all issues. The girl knows that it is unlikely anyone would recommend a child. But reading the letter, she realized it comes from Duke Catastrophe himself. Only then did she realize that the child before her is also the Duke's child. The participants are gathered in the arena, the place where the exam will take place. The instructor would begin to give the instructions regarding how the exam works. First, they will be taken to a dungeon. Through that teleportation stone, they will have 5 hours to return with the Jewel of Light. In total, there are 3 of them inside the dungeon. Only those who obtain the jewels will be promoted. The arrogant fool believes he is destined to be one of the victors. The competition before him feels intimidated, while the protagonist feels embarrassed for the young man. After the explanation, the instructor asked if everyone there is ready. Seeing their enthusiastic response, the exam would begin immediately. It is the protagonist's turn to enter the dungeon. Through the teleportation stone, the wheels begin to shine intensely, and he found himself on his way to a completely different place. It was as if he had passed through a portal. He was finally inside the cave. It seems that they were all sent to different places on the first floor. He must think about which route to choose. Although the dungeon is very large, he has enough time to complete it, and, since he has the opportunity, it would be a shame not to use it to the best of his ability. There are many creatures in this dungeon, and the more monsters he defeats, the greater his mana will be. Immediately, he drew his sword, determined to hunt all the creatures that exist there. Inside the dungeon, the other candidates are having difficulties defeating the creatures. They are formidable and quite dangerous. The eyes of those lizards are frightening and violent, more than enough to intimidate the weak. The arrogant extra does not understand how the others are struggling to defeat such weak creatures. He is capable of annihilating the creatures with a broad smile, as it does not require much of his abilities. His feats earn him applause from the others. Very full of himself, he claimed that he is not mediocre like the rest, and, to be frank, that difficulty is frustrating. The extras are happy to follow him, as they will be safe. Being accompanied by them, Lennox warned that they would have a privileged view of his skills, and that weaklings like those are only good for wandering around. After wandering through the dungeon, the group came across a very large door. That must be the last room. He hopes to be able to entertain himself a bit. Unexpectedly, there were several level D monsters in that place, and the jewels are positioned on an altar at the end of the room. One of the creatures began to walk toward the group. Lennox believes he will be able to cut it into pieces, delivering several cuts toward the monster. But its body is so hard and resilient that it suffered no damage at all. It is time for the creature to counterattack. For the first time in the dungeon, the arrogant extra found himself pressured by one of the monsters. The blow was so strong that he ended up losing his balance, but he is still surprised that his attacks had no effect whatsoever. Even the other extras could not believe that this was happening. Immediately worried, as the other creatures had focused on them, the young man needed to act to save his own life. He managed to hit one of the monsters that was attacking him, only to realize that physical attacks were completely useless against it. Meanwhile, the woman was having difficulties fighting the creature capable of flying. This other monster could attack with its feathers without needing to get close. Lennox finally realized the extent of the difficulty. At the end of that exam, there would be a monster capable of resisting each of the divine abilities they possess. Against that stone creature, he is completely ineffective, terrified and frozen. He closed his eyes, hoping for the worst not to happen. But the terrible creature was destroyed before it could hit the candidate. He opened his eyes. Still very impressed, Bell is relieved, as he had arrived a little late. The worst would have happened. He ended up having a lot of fun while hunting. Lennox immediately recognized the boy. He is the little trash who was taking the exam. A monster immune to physical attacks is approaching him. Bell needed to change his strategy to deal with that creature. The sword would be the ideal weapon for that. Lennox was surprised that the boy's divine weapon had transformed. Bell finished off that creature in a single blow. Now, he needed to deal with the one that was flying. He has perfect equipment for that, capable of making multiple shots. Pummeling the creature's body with bullets, he turned it into a sieve with wings. The other extras do not believe that the boy is truly strong, as the divine weapon he possessed was just an empty sheath. Lennox does not understand how it is possible for him to have multiple divine weapons. Not to mention that the boy has immense mastery over each of them. As time was short, he needed to finish off the creatures quickly. Watching everything from the sidelines, the arrogant extra does not believe that a child can be so skilled. While he continued to be impressed, the protagonist kept defeating the creatures. With everything properly finished, he just needed to collect one of the jewels. He had finally arrived at the altar where they were positioned. The extras approached him to begin the process of flattery, something that the protagonist does not appreciate. They soon revealed themselves to be toxic, belittling the one they had been flattering earlier. They said that, compared to the child, he is a great piece of trash and that they had always been wrong about him. Lennox's confidence had been annihilated by that experience. The two extras believe they will collect the two remaining jewels without saying anything to them. The boy summoned his hammer. He had already recovered the jewel necessary for his own approval, and he was ready to do something very entertaining. He delivered a powerful blow onto the altar. To the surprise of the two flattering extras, they asked what the hell that was. The boy had destroyed the remaining jewels. Showing them the only jewel that was left, he said that if they wanted it so badly, they could just take it. Saying that the two, besides being useless, are merely flatterers who take advantage of others' talents, who take pleasure in belittling those who are not useful to them. They are all unworthy of being called knights. Being reprimanded by a child is something that devastated their egos. Bell is leaving the room, leaving the extras there. Lennox seems to have developed from that reprimand, recognizing his weaknesses and that he was very arrogant, thanking Bell for it, but he would not let that become his end. The protagonist finds it surprising that he has been honest and that he has ambitions, confirming that one day they would meet again. Outside, the boy celebrates. Finally, he would be a level C knight, and having hunted several monsters, his mana has developed quite a bit. Now he just needs to earn respect within his own house to be able to protect his sister. Finally, he arrives at the Duke's residence to share the news. But the Duke seems to be in the middle of a serious meeting, with knights who are planning to overthrow the MANHUA family. 3 level B paladins are approaching those lands. The Duke's family has been tasked with dealing with them. It seems that another noble family had problems with these paladins. Rumors say that these knights enchanted their weapons with forbidden spells. Those level B paladins now know why they were called there. The Duke stated that they could not allow karma to continue like this. They need to eradicate them immediately. One of the young men noticed that another knight was missing. Jin was not there with them. Placing a book on the table, a young man asked what the meeting was about. Immediately, the others turned to see who it was. The young man said that this organization had already been annihilated. For he who will be the next duke will be the reason for this event. One of the maids is bringing the meal to her lady, informing her that the food has arrived. Sarah prepares to sit at the table. Being very polite, she thanked the woman's efforts. who left the room, not paying any attention to this gratitude. Sarah seems to be very sad. She looks at her meal with no enthusiasm whatsoever. Finally, her brother enters the room announcing that he has arrived. He looks at her with great joy. Sarah reciprocates in the same way. Belle informed her that he had to do something important, and that he brought gifts for her. On the table now lies a complete meal. Sarah was very happy with the apple pie that had been brought, and she hopes to be able to eat all of that in her brother's company, but that is not the time to enjoy her sister's company. The food is always the same, as even the servants detest the children of concubines. He needs to work hard to improve his sister's quality of life immediately. The meeting with the Duke is still ongoing. He is impressed that one of his sons has dealt with karma alone. This can only mean that Jean has already reached level A as expected of the Duke's eldest son. He is on another level after that. He also sat at the table. He wants to know if his father has anything else to share. He mentioned that the king has assigned their family another task. They should escort Princess Rika Shudigvelin. One of the knights would like to know if the royal guard is not sufficient. The other said that the royalty should not have been informed, even though karma is no longer a problem. Thus, the safest route should go through Rikeda. While they were talking, another person entered the hall. The boy asked them to wait before deciding. His appearance caught everyone's attention. The knights know that this is Belle. The Duke cannot deny that he is very pleased with his son's talent. It seems that the exam had already ended. Showing his certificate, the boy confirmed that he now belongs to level C. It is impressive that he achieved this at such a young age. Now, the Duke wants to know why he interrupted. He would like to suggest another route for this journey. One of the knights was surprised that a boy had something to suggest. The route that goes through Rikeda has no monsters, which is why there are so many bandits. And the journey would take 3 days. It would be better if the journey went through the monster plains. One of the knights warned that that place is definitely dangerous, but the boy knows the monsters that inhabit this region. Most of them are chimeras and horrors of the dark. Both are nocturnal creatures. Passing during the day would be much safer, not to mention that it would only take a single day to reach the destination. The knight, unfortunately, has to agree with that. After listening to the boy, the Duke realized that he is assertive and knows a lot about monsters. It remains to be seen what they thought of this. For the boy would like to be included in this task and is confident that he would safely escort the princess. His stance made the Duke remain thoughtful. Finally, Jean made his contribution to the dialogue. A threatening energy filled the air. He wants to know why this mutt is talking to them. The energy is so intense that even a plant on the table ended up wilting. Belle had already forgotten how terrible his older brother's intimidation is. Even so, that was not enough to intimidate him. Revealing his divine weapon, he said he was serious too, claiming that he would be able to safely take the princess to her destination, no matter what happens. Intrigued by the boy's confidence, Jean asked if he would be able to stop him. Belle stated that a knight keeps his word. Jean's servant ordered the boy to shut up, since his words represented blasphemy against Jean. This is Razor, the secretary of his brother, who by now must be a level B paladin. Jean seems very interested in the boy, and asked his secretary to put him to the test. Then, he also revealed his divine weapon. As he was prepared to beat that child, he was going to teach a lesson to the son of a concubine. He immediately began to step toward the boy, who seems to be very attentive to his surroundings. Even though he hasn't moved, the secretary is about to deliver the first blow. Belle realized that this could be much more difficult than expected. Even so, he was able to defend himself efficiently, something that left the secretary impressed. Jean also seemed to have liked what he saw. That was faster than expected. It is still early for him to be able to defeat a level B paladin in combat firmly and authoritatively. The Duke warned that that is enough, stating that Belle would be in charge of that task. The secretary asked if the Duke was serious about this. Since karma had already been annihilated by Jean, this would be an interesting task as a first mission. Belle respectfully thanked him, stating that he would not disappoint him. Jean is watching the boy closely, but his wicked smile hides something. Belle needed to go to the royal palace. This is the first time he is going to this place. He heads to the gates to make his entrance, but he is stopped by the guards, who say he cannot just enter there. The boy introduces himself, showing his paladin certificate, and warns that he is responsible for escorting the princess. They have difficulty believing that this child is already at level C properly identified. He managed to pass through the gates. The guards have doubts that the child is capable of protecting Her Highness finally. The princess' carriage had arrived. She said that her bodyguard is very cute, apologized to him, confirming that she would not need his help. The man sitting on the throne wants to know if the princess has already left. His servant confirms that she should already be on the road in addition to several guards in her company. The duke's son is also part of her escort. He learned that this son is Belle, who must still be a child, imagining that he must be extremely talented. He asked his servant to be cautious, authorizing him to use his secret weapon if the situation called for it. Revealing blades in his hands, he stated that there would be no need, for his specialty is to eliminate people without them knowing it. The carriage continues on its way. Inside there are the princess, the protagonist, and the guards. That task is very simple but of great importance. Completing it is essential to help her sister, but there is a catch to that. He does not feel comfortable at all. It seems he was not well received, asking permission for imagining it might be a rude question. He wanted to know why the princess said he would not be necessary. She takes a little while to respond, saying that she does not like to depend on others. She has her own divine weaponry and is not as weak as people imagine. The boy realized that she is even more arrogant than he had thought. Inside the city, life goes on normally. That seems to have awakened something in the princess. She looks outside with great enthusiasm. The boy enjoys seeing her joy, but the princess felt uncomfortable with that. He apologized, stating that she resembles his sister very much, and he is sure that she would have reacted the same way. Looking at all that, the princess asked if they usually get along. Belle told her that they play a lot when they are together since she is still very young. The games are simple things. The princess said that she has many siblings, but she cannot trust any of them, imagining that it might be about succession conflicts. Belle felt sorry for her. He said that in his own house he goes through a very similar situation. His siblings often chase them for being the children of a concubine. Since his mother is deceased, there is no one to protect them. The princess seems to have become interested in that. Belle said that she must feel that way, and that she could confide in him if she felt comfortable, but she does not want to depend on anyone, much less on someone like him. The boy does not know what her situation is, and by presuming he understands something, was disrespectful. Around the road, outside the walls, they are being watched at night. Finally, it came upon them. They arrived at their destination in one day, as planned, but for the princess that had been very tiring. The gates open, and she is welcomed, only she does not know who this young man is. His name is Peter, one of the knights of that kingdom, and he said they are happy to finally welcome her. Belle has heard of Peter but cannot remember now, and he found it very strange that they were welcomed outside the city. Those who prepared the ambush are ready to act, and the princess' entourage remains outside. The boy noticed that there are many guards there, but it is still strange. A dagger was thrown at them. He managed to act quickly to protect her with his divine weaponry. She and her guards were immediately frightened. An enemy attack was underway and several daggers had been thrown at her. Since there were many, this could be a big problem. Peter is also ready to act with his sword skills. He managed to protect the princess. He would not let anything happen to her. Seeing what the knight is capable of, Belle imagined that he must be at level B. The assassins needed to flee. The ambush was not completed. Peter gives the order to his knights to pursue those men. The princess will be escorted out of the castle. Belle stayed outside while the princess was taken away. She looks back, quite apprehensive inside. They informed her that she is safe, but the princess stated that she is capable of defending herself. While the knight said he would protect her, he was attacked. The author of that action was Peter himself. Now she knows that the real danger is on her side. He looks at the guard who has just lost his life. Definitely his sacrifice was for nothing. The princess does not know what will happen now. Peter told her that her life would end in a few moments. Despite having said she is capable of defending herself, the princess is completely defenseless. The knight approaches her slowly. She is so frightened that she cannot invoke her divine weaponry. Peter revealed himself to be a degenerate. With a horrific smile, the princess now needs someone capable of saving her. The window of the place was broken. Peter was surprised by what just happened. One of his men had been annihilated, and the boy responsible for the escort is the author of this. He apologized for being late, and finally climbed down from the window. Looking at the princess, he warned her that the work from then on is his responsibility. Peter thought that, with strategy, the guards would end up taking the bait from the outside. He does not believe that the boy will be able to defeat him. And finally, the protagonist remembered who this person is, but Peter ended up becoming very confused. His real name is Von Riegel. This fact left the knight extremely surprised. He did not imagine that the child knew this. His divine weapon consists of 2 combinations that have 3 thunder dice so far. He has been able to annihilate some counts, even managing to take down a marquise. Impressed by the child, he wished to know how he was able to discover all this in his past life. He was responsible for bringing him to justice, which is why he knows all these facts. The boy had no idea that he would one day go after the princess. He will not escape his fate now. Even though he is a child, Peter felt quite intimidated by that. But he did not fail to recognize that it is an interesting situation. Even though he was investigated by the child, she would never be able to defeat a paladin at level B. And indeed, it could be an insurmountable challenge for him. But if his opponent is Peter, he should have no difficulty at all. Growing irritated with the protagonist's impudence, he said he would make him regret those words. The boy already knows that he will start by throwing his weapons. And that is exactly what he does with his set of daggers. The boy manages to dodge all of them with ease, for he already knew that his opponent would perform a surprise attack, making a diagonal cut with his right hand. Peter was impressed to have missed all those attacks. But the protagonist already knew that he would try to surprise him from behind. His hand was already prepared to summon his divine weapon. And with the sword, he managed to defend against the surprise attack. He already knew all those movements. Peter does not understand how that little piece of human excrement can match his speed. Bell said he could end him at any moment, so if he values his life, it's better to surrender now. But his opponent was consumed by deep anger. Feeling belittled, he warned that he would turn that little one into several pieces. With him irritated, his attacks become even more predictable. That is his weak point. Guided by his rage, he ended up delivering several blows, but none of them were able to reach that child. The princess was impressed by his battle skills. He manages to silence all those attacks. The princess realized that, in fact, she talks too much. The ring that was on one of her fingers began to shine. And the protagonist, now out of patience, warned that he would end this once and for all. The first attack he delivered against his opponent was effective. Peter had been injured. He needs to rethink his attack strategy. He realized that all his movements are being read. Things are happening as his boss warned that boy may be extremely talented, or there may be something else about him. Therefore, he should not let his guard down. Faced with the difficulty, he will use his greatest triumph. The protagonist is aware of this. He will use his ability, a completely insurmountable light barrier. And he told him that this is no problem at all, as he will be able to overcome this adversity. Peter believes that the boy is just being impudent, so he began to open that small vial. Even knowing what it might be, the protagonist became worried. Those are the tears of the Dragon King. After throwing it on the ground, it seemed like he had used some kind of stimulant that is a rare item that multiplies the user's mana for a brief period of time. Peter said he would make the child regret not being cautious. He throws his daggers, but this time it's different. They are noticeably much more powerful, and the boy needs to be cautious. For now, he is surrounded by all those blades. They had stopped in the air to completely encircle him. Peter believes that his victory will finally happen, for the boy had been trapped inside a light barrier. He feels that his body is being lifted off the ground through magnetism. The princess was worried about her bodyguard. He needed to use his shield to try to escape from that. But the wind produced by his weapon is not strong enough. Peter had not yet finished demonstrating his abilities. His daggers began to shine even more with an electric glow. The energy passed through the entire barrier, and the boy was agonizing intensely. Peter said he would be quick at this stage, almost losing consciousness. He realized he could not end there. While he was weakened, arrows began to fly through the room. They were aimed at the daggers. This caused the barrier to be completely destroyed. It was only then that Peter realized what was happening. The princess managed to use her divine weapon. That paladin was risking his own life to save her. She could not be afraid forever. Her intervention only made Peter even more irritated, advancing against his victim to finish his job. And now the princess was overcome with fear. But the protagonist only needed that little help. Finally, the assassin understood that he was in trouble. His body was struck by a deep and effective blow. Being enough to incapacitate him, Bell had won that duel. The body of his opponent fell to the ground, completely motionless once recovered. He asked if the princess was hurt. With a sad expression in her eyes, she said nothing to him. But she approached the boy, touching his face. She warned him that he was the only one injured in that room. Apologizing, she said he had been involuntarily caught up in the succession conflict. But the boy stated that it was not a problem. In fact, the princess was as strong as she had said. To which she replied that she was not as strong as her bodyguard, very grateful for his help. She assured him that if she ever needed him, she would stand up for him, kneeling down. The boy expressed his gratitude for the princess' help. She looked at him with great admiration. Removing the ring from her finger, she wished for him to keep this small artifact. As a token of her gratitude and friendship, Belle knows exactly what artifact this is. That was not an ordinary ring. Finally, the mission had been completed without casualties. He was received by the Duke. He listened to everything that happened during the princess escort. Bell said he completed the task successfully, but the Duke noticed that there was something more to it. On one of the boy's fingers is the Ring of Solomon. It was given to him by the princess as proof of her trust in him. This is a valuable artifact, one of the treasures of the royal family. Being a source of mana, incredible that the boy managed to obtain this artifact. He might be more impressive than the Duke imagined. Knowing this, he could not hide his delight. He informed the boy that he would enlist him in Athena immediately. He did not expect to receive this news, for this is an elite academy for paladins. Access is exclusive to elite families. Almost all members are mentored by private tutors. Tradition states that only potential heirs of the family go to the academy. This can only mean that he is now in the running to be the heir. The Duke ordered him to continue training until he was notified about the start of his classes. But the boy has something to say still, and his father would like to know what it is. Standing before him, he rose, for he has a request to make now. He is already outside the hall with his sister, who is very happy. She cannot believe that this is her new room. Her bed is now much more comfortable. It was the Duke himself who granted permission for this. He asked them to move to the main house, which would contribute to the respect of others. The girl cannot hide that she is very pleased, noticing that there was something different on the boy's hand. There was a small wound on it. He said he had hurt himself on his last task. Knowing this made her a little worried, but they soon returned to playing. That made him feel even better. Definitely Sarah would be well taken care of from now on. Now he needs to focus on his future, for in 5 years a catastrophe will occur. His sister may be in danger again, and he needs to gather information to find out who is responsible for this. And for that, it is necessary for him to become the heir of his family. Jean's servant goes to his room to tell him something. He bowed, waiting for permission, but Jean remained engrossed in his painting, staying very focused during this. The servant reported that the bastard brother would be sent to the Athena Academy. He is the first since Jean himself. They should eliminate him immediately, but Jean is not interested in that. He set his painting aside for a moment, and informed that his brother does not pose any danger for now. His brother's strengthening will also be advantageous, for there is something he enjoys doing very much. His servant was surprised by this. Jean reveals himself to be a true degenerate, who likes to crush things after they are fully developed. In light of this, it will be done as he wishes. Even though his master has already given the order, he considers this a risky strategy. The boy has several divine weapons and has already managed to defeat a level paladin. He needs to make his move immediately, purely out of caution. Bell is outside training. He needs to develop his unique skills, and it would be interesting to develop them before entering the academy. The problem is that, for that, he will need to hunt countless monsters. Through the reflection of his sword, he saw that his brother's servant was approaching. The blonde addressed him formally, something he did not expect from someone supposedly hostile. Knowing that he is his brother's servant, he asked what he wanted there. He was apologizing for what happened the other day, as it was disrespectful to point his blade at one of the Duke's sons. The protagonist thought that maybe he could be a good person. In light of this, he asked not to worry about what is already in the past. He thanked the young man for his attention. He said he had something else to discuss with him as well. The boy still held his sword, and the servant wanted to know if he would like to accompany him on a monster subjugation mission. An unusual task. He said that his master Jin and other paladins planned to do something else. He is impressed with the boy's performance and would like to help him. This is a very strange invitation. He could not refuse it, as he is the Duke's son, recognizing that he needs to be cautious. He said he would accept the invitation, and the young man thanked him deeply as he plans to eliminate him during this task. The protagonist asked where they would be going. It is a remote place called Ithaca, and he knows exactly what place that is. He had almost forgotten, but it is the perfect place to use a special method that will increase his mana. Using ambrosia is a rare item that permanently increases the user's mana. The carriage is heading to the location for monster eradication. The protagonist is inside it, eager to deal with some creatures, while thinking it would be nice to have some ambrosia. But the chances of obtaining it are slim. To do so, it is necessary to enter a hidden dungeon, and he knows the location of one of those hidden dungeons, as it will appear near that city called Ithaca. Since it is already night, they need to find accommodation. The young man would pass on the necessary instructions to him. They need to eradicate some leviathans. They were informed that there are several of them in that place. They are sea-level monsters. Since it is late, they will start at dawn the next day. They need to rest. For that, the boy said he would go to his room. As he climbs the stairs, he is being watched. The young man thinks he is an idiot who does not know what is happening. He will make it seem like everything was an unexpected accident. No matter how talented he is still sea-level. It will be easy to eliminate him once in the room. He imagined that Razor must already be asleep. He summoned his shield, using his wind magic through the window that allows the artifact to be used unexpectedly, transforming into a platform capable of flying. The hidden dungeon is located within the monster forest. He and his master found it a long time ago. No one knows its location. Finally, the boy's feet touch the ground. As his artifact dissolves, he imagines he has located the dungeon. Before him is a small entrance. The boy begins to explore its interior, coming across a large portal. That was exactly what he was looking for. But hidden dungeons can be differentiated by their color. Blue ones are a level. A green gate is level. Upon completing it, he will receive ambrosia equivalent to the dungeon's level. That will definitely help him a lot. The boy is ready to enter through the gate. He needs to defeat the boss creature of the place in his past life. He faced it as only at level. His master warned him it was too early, and it might be difficult for him now as well, but he cannot back down just because he feels fear. He placed his hand inside the gate. Passing through it, he thought he needed to get strong as quickly as possible. Inside the dungeon, he was already fighting the first creature. But it did not seem challenging enough. He observes the movements of that ghost knight, who is ready to advance, attacking once again. He delivers quick and precise strikes. But the boy is able to continue defending himself. And in this way, he managed to find an opening in the attack, striking the knight completely unprotected. But his blow was not enough to defeat him. On the contrary, the force of the impact threw the boy back. He needed to change his weapon. And now he wielded the powerful hammer. With it in hand, he managed to deliver another blow. Even so, the creature remained unchanged. Physical attacks were not able to destroy that armor. It would be up to him to try another strategy. Using the sword again, he made his blade shine. He would attack using magic. The strikes hit the armor. Even so, they were unable to cause any damage. He had never seen a creature like that. But he understands that it is only sea level. He is being pressured again by the Ghost Knight's attacks. He needs to think of another strategy immediately. If the creature has a shield, it must certainly have a weakness. And the boy seems to have concluded something. A bullet coated in mana should do the trick. Now he is including fire breath. He started to charge the attack that would be fired. And the Ghost Knight continues advancing towards him. There are only 2 seconds left to be ready. The creature keeps getting closer and closer. Finally, when the distance becomes short enough, his attack is already charged. The shot is fired towards the armor, proving to be truly effective. The creature fell to the ground as it had been subdued. The boy also fell due to the recoil of the shot. With the battle concluded, he sighs in relief. A magical attack was the weakness of that creature as long as it was strong enough. If he hadn't had a divine weapon like this, he would have had serious problems. The boss monster must be terrifying. But that is to be expected from a hidden dungeon. Even so, obtaining rare items from those monsters is a great opportunity. That drink can restore his stamina and mana. The boy drinks immediately, as he needs strength to continue. And that is exactly what he does, destroying all the creatures in his path until he finally reached where he wanted to be. Behind that huge gate must be the strongest creature. He doesn't know if it will be a demon or a huge serpent, but he will find out in moments. Finally, he is inside the main hall. It resembles a type of arena. The boy begins to hear sounds. Before him, a shadow appeared. Similar to a knight, his body starts to feel chills, and his mouth began to dry. That pressure is simply overwhelming, and the creature his eyes behold is truly dangerous. Its eyes shine with a very intense scarlet color. The knight approaches slowly. Surely it must be the boss creature of that dungeon. He is preparing to face that terrible monster. The boy needs to stay completely alert for this. The ghost knight looks at his sword, moving his weapon quickly in the blink of an eye. The boy needs to react or he will end his session early. The resulting destruction is completely overwhelming. Bell managed to gain a little distance, but he still has to dodge the blows. If he is hit by any of those attacks, it will be fatal. Once again, the creature turns against him, forcing the boy to jump. This is the opportunity he needed to summon his sword. Now he will be able to attack as well. Finding an opening, he struck the ghost knight in the back. But its armor is much denser than he expected. Once again, he will have difficulties breaking through that steel. The boy has no time to think, as he needs to stay focused on his dodging. He decided to try the strategy that proved effective earlier with his fire spewer. This is the best strategy he has. This time, he will charge the attack for much longer. It will be 5 seconds in total. He still needs a little more time to charge the attack, and as soon as it was completed, he fired at the ghost knight, hoping that it would be enough to win. The attack is heading towards the creature. The impact occurs cleanly with no defense whatsoever. To his total surprise, it had no effectiveness at all. Noticing a strange marking on the chest of the ghost knight, that resistance to magic was truly formidable. Once again, the boy was cornered. He is lucky that his agility is enough to maintain his dodging. Needing much more defense, he would also use his shield. With it, he managed to block a direct attack. But that destructive power could be too dangerous. With trembling hands, he realized that something had happened. The ghost knight was changing its attack pattern. This time, it would come from above. Prepared to deliver a fatal blow, Bell needs to act with all the speed he has. The Black Knight's sword strikes the ground, completely destroying the arena floor amidst the dust that rose. He completely lost sight of the boy. Finally, he reveals himself, gaining even more distance. He doesn't have enough mana to pierce that armor, and soon realized that the dust had obscured his enemy until he spotted a glow forming. His body could feel a bad omen. The creature's sword had been thrown at him. He had to use the protection of the shield to avoid being finished off. The blade ended up ricocheting away, and the boy realized that the attacks had not ceased. That attack was just a feint. The real threat was coming from behind. There was nothing he could do. His body aches as the impact had been brutal. He is lying before the creature, and it is still not satisfied with the life of its enemy, trying to step on him to end his suffering. Even though he had been weakened, Bell managed to dodge once more. He only regained his strength because he drank an elixir. If it weren't for that, he would have been defeated. The problem is that he has nothing left to rely on, and the creature had retrieved its sword. Faced with the risk and the impossibility of winning, he will need to take a gamble. The shield is the heaviest weapon he possesses. This gave him an interesting plan. He imagined what it would be like to throw it with the correct speed using wind magic. Finally, the shield had become an offensive weapon. It is the most powerful projectile he possesses now. His plans were thwarted. The ghost knight managed to dodge something the boy was not expecting, and this time, he is completely unarmed. There is nothing that can stop that blade. Completely cornered, he realized he would not be able to dodge, and now there is no shield to protect him. He needs the trajectory to be corrected for him to have a chance of survival. Surprising the creature, the shield managed to hit it. This gave him time to dodge the sword. Seizing the opportunity, the boy advanced. For this time, he would change the type of attack. With the strength of his hammer, he hopes to cause some kind of damage. The ghost knight is aware that he will not be able to dodge. The force of the impact proved to be devastating. After that, the creature fell to the ground, defeated. Bell is panting from the fierce battle. His strategy with the shield was very risky, but it proved to be very effective. Now he needs to stab whatever exists inside that armor, only the boy took too long to do that. The knight was standing again. That battle was not over unusually. The armor plates began to fall, and the creature revealed its true form, something the boy still did not understand. The monster is about to put its hand on a hook present on the guard of its blade, removing from it what appears to be a new instrument that was a kind of latch. Its sword was still in the sheath. Finally, it had been revealed. The boy had no idea that this existed, and now he has a new enemy to fight. The creature had gained quite a bit of speed. Bell is having difficulty keeping up with these attacks, being violently thrown towards the wall. The pain he felt in his body was agonizing. As he fell to the ground, he no longer had the strength to continue fighting. And the creature continues to approach him. His senses are almost fading, and the dungeon boss is ready to end his life even without strength. The boy tries to get up one more time, for it is certain that if he does nothing, he will end his life there. He can barely lift his own head. The cut is coming in his direction, but it was avoided. He is using the gauntlet. The creature's luck had finally come to an end. The monster did not understand. Its victim seemed to be out of strength. Meanwhile, the boy also summoned the sword. For the first time in the fight, he manages to pressure his enemy, and now the real fight is about to begin. The two begin to exchange various blows. Both are much more agile, and the battle extends throughout the arena. Without armor, the monster became really much stronger. But it is still not stronger than the protagonist using the power of the gauntlet. He is confident that he will resolve that conflict now. The colored marking on the monster's body changed color, now shining bright red. The protagonist's sword passes through the creature's mirage. He immediately realized that his sword had not cut anything. Needing to defend against an attack he had barely seen, that change of color made the creature even faster, and because of that, the protagonist was pressured again. But he had not yet been defeated, and needed more power to win. The more power flows through his body, the more dangerous the situation becomes. That tide of strength is truly intoxicating. A grotesque idea appeared in his mind. The gauntlet is cursed to receive that power. He must give up his own soul, and the protagonist is about to make that pact. That mysterious aura begins to envelop him, causing him to lose control. He is unable to resist so much power. It is as if his existence is disappearing. The entity warned that he really needs power now. The reason for his suffering is his own lack of strength. That is why he was always oppressed. And because he was weak, he ended up losing his life. He should already be exhausted from being so weak. Now it is time for him to be the one who takes what he desires through strength. Little by little, he is losing control over himself. The creature saw this as an opportunity to execute him. But his opponent had already transformed his own power. Standing on equal footing with the creature's strength, the shock wave resulting from the clash of blades is devastating. There is only one thing that drives him now: his incessant desire for destruction. He no longer wants to win. He only wishes to destroy, and the creature would be his first obstacle after that. He would end everything that stood in his way, even on the verge of losing control. The boy remembered his sister. That gave him a flash of awareness. Bell was still fighting the powerful creature. He realized he cannot pay that price now. For there is a beloved sister waiting for him. His struggles are not motivated by the desire to take lives. The true motivation for wanting to become stronger is the need to protect his sister. In this way, he manages to maintain control over himself. It's time for that creature to give him the power it possesses, easily pushing the dungeon boss away. The gauntlet tries to seduce him. As long as he gives his own soul as payment, he would become stronger. But he decided to attack anyway. The creature also lunges at him, both prepared powerful strikes, only to find themselves once again caught up in that swift combat. The creature tried to surprise him with a mana attack, but his speed was once again surpassed. The boy managed to disarm the creature, causing one of its arms to abandon the rest of its body. That would prevent the creature from continuing to fight, and the protagonist finally found the opening he needed, cutting the creature in two halves. Finally, it seems that the monster has been completely subdued. The winner of that battle is named Bell, still with power flowing through his body. He observes the creature's body. which, having lost its life, began to disintegrate. That challenge had come to an end, and he can now rid himself of the cursed gauntlet. That enemy was too powerful, and the boy almost lost control of himself. He must avoid using that gauntlet as much as possible. Before him, a small vial had appeared. It is the item he was searching for, the ambrosia. If he drinks the contents of that vial, he will have as much mana as a level B paladin, able to use abilities from his divine armaments. The truth is that he had never seen a vial of ambrosia before and was a bit worried, but he knows he needs to drink it for a better future. At first, he felt no change at all. After a while, he began to feel his mana increasing significantly. This is incredible. He reached level B instantly. After the power came the pain, so intense that the boy could barely resist. His chest hurt and he felt like his body was burning. The sheath at his waist began to glow intensely, not knowing what was happening. He collapsed to the ground unconscious. Now, he was lying in the center of a magical formation. Waking up still very frightened, he has no idea where that place is. It's as if he had been teleported to another dimension. A man welcomed him in that place. He had finally awakened. That is his mentor. It has been a long time since they last saw each other. Even with his face hidden in the hood, the boy recognized him. There is no doubt that this is his master in that place. There are also other people. A girl carries a hammer and a hidden man is the bearer of the gauntlet. Just like the knight who owns the sword. In that place, he is warmly welcomed by all of them. It is the first time in his life that he has experienced something like this. That is the dimension of souls. Seeing his disciple again made the man very emotional. The boy is also happy with this reunion. His master's name is Rygus. He was the one who gave him Avalon. He was the original bearer of the shield Achilles. Seeing his master unexpectedly was truly rewarding, but he cannot understand anything. He doesn't know how he remembers him since he had returned in time. The master said he had been watching his pupil from that place. Witnessing his death and reincarnation. In light of this, the boy became intrigued about the nature of that place. That space is within Avalon itself. It is where the divine armaments are kept, along with the soul of each of its successors. The statement left the boy intrigued. He wished to know where the body of his former master is. He replied that his body must be somewhere in the mountains, enjoying retirement. Avalon is a divine armament that binds to the souls of its bearers. By taking it through time, its bearer lost the connection with it, but his consciousness remains linked to his body. The boy soon imagined that returning to the past was the work of his armament, but the master doubts that. At least he did not know that the was capable of doing that. Only the boy did not expect that even his master could not provide this answer. Reunited with him once again, he said that the boy did an excellent job protecting his sister. He congratulated him for that, but the boy felt embarrassed to receive the praise, and he wants to know why he is there in that place with him. The master was about to start the explanation, but one of the souls there began to move. He said that they were wasting too much time and also wanted to talk. His name is Raven, the owner of the fire spitters. The master warned that he had not finished talking to his disciple yet, and the young man asked him to be a bit more flexible as he is not a stone golem before them. The boy just observes, not understanding anything at all. Introducing himself to the sixth successor, he said it was a pleasure to meet him. The boy was thoughtful for a while, and when he tried to touch his hand, he saw that he was being playful. That man was extremely laid back, something the boy did not understand. Seeing his disturbance, Raven began to find it quite amusing. He said that the sixth successor was indeed very naive, and the girl joined them. Charlotte warned that the newcomer was still adapting, but the boy said it was just a normal joke and asked if Horu agreed with him. However, the boy was extremely shy. In addition to being the fourth successor, he asked not to be spoken to. The girl knew that Raven liked to joke with others. He asked her not to be so irritated, as it would ruin her beauty and make her wrinkled. Charlotte did not like that comment at all. The master tried to ask them to stop arguing, but she did not like Rhaega's stance. Before she could respond, she had to deal with the comedian's antics. It was strange for the boy to see his master in that kind of situation so relaxed. This only shows that his predecessors are indeed powerful. He had already asked his master about them. They are all great heroes who fought against evil. The man with the sword asked them to get straight to the point. The first successor, Adam, confirmed that there was a purpose for that. Summoned the boy to that dimension to alert him. Knowing this news, he asked what it would be about. The sixth successor needs to learn to use the abilities of his divine arms. This news caught him by surprise. Divine arms with their abilities mastered radiate a huge amount of mana. If he were to unlock them now, it could be fatal for his body. That is why he was feeling so much pain. He needs to wait for his body to mature to unlock this power, but the boy has urgent needs. He believes he cannot stop his progress now. He needs all that power to be able to protect his sister. Adam realized that the boy was unyielding, and there is only one thing to be done now. He decided he would crush the boy right there. He did not expect Adam to be so fast. He needs to defend himself from that attack immediately. Only then realizing that he was already behind him. The boy was hit by the back of the sword. Adam hopes that with this, he realizes that he is still very immature, but he did not take into account that his attack could have been blocked. In light of this, he needed to rethink his plans. The boy's recent fights had made him progress a lot. It may be that he is capable then. He should first be able to master the sword. All the successors are waiting for that, and the boy wants to know if he has finally been accepted by him. Adam confirmed that if he maintains only one ability, he might be able to control it, giving the boy permission to unlock the level B abilities of the sword Caliban. He will receive the other abilities when the time comes, just like those of level A abilities that are truly extraordinary. The boy announced that he would unlock them immediately. Adam seemed to like the conviction of that little one. And the comedian wished that number 6 would have good luck. They all hope that the protagonist can protect his little sister. They will continuously observe him from the shadows. It is time for the boy to return to his body. He woke up inside the dungeon. He does not feel pain in his body, but has a strange sensation contemplating the power in the sword. He is eager to use it to subjugate the monsters. For he already knows the unique ability of that sword to reach the place where the monsters are. They needed to take a boat. And now they are in the middle of the planned journey. The boy warned that soon the Leviathans would start to appear, so it is time to be prepared for battle. What he does not know is that everyone there wants to attack him. Even the barber is involved in this plot. The boy began to find some things about that task strange. Why would a level B knight be tasked with dealing with level C creatures? Or why would he need help? It is certain that he should have planned something. The protagonist knows that being attacked by surprise would be a problem. That is why he must not take his eyes off him at any moment. He was informed that they are getting closer and closer, but the place in question remains very calm. Looking at the boy, he saw that he had drawn his knife. The protagonist looked at him firmly. Making a cut on his arm, he warned that he needs to attract the creatures first. He used his own blood as bait for that. It will be enough to send the creatures into a frenzy, as he said. It does not take long for the first creature to appear. Along with it, several others appeared as well. A much larger number than they were expecting. As they are clever creatures, the protagonist suggested they split up to manage the boat, but he cannot let the boy stay alone. Very suspicious. He asked what his reasons were for that, finally revealing his malicious side. He stated that the boy cannot leave there alive. He initiated combat against the protagonist, who had his leg tied up by the whip. He soon realized he was already at a strategic disadvantage. The one who had tied him up was one of the boatmen from that place. He then removes his hood to reveal his identity. That is Spencer, someone the protagonist knows very well. The other guy asks him to immediately do what they planned using his strength. He lifted the protagonist off the ground. With one of his legs frozen, that would not be pleasant at all, as he was thrown into the sea. Spencer had not finished his attack yet, as he used his power to make the ice even larger. This way, it would be very difficult for the boy to return to the vessel, completely ignoring the laws of basic physics. The ice began to sink. They hope that, with this, he will be consumed by the creatures. Now they can claim that the boy perished in battle. It remains for the monsters not to leave anything behind. The boy needs to breathe immediately. To return to the surface, he thought of using his shield. Since he is capable of generating wind himself, this would not be impossible. What is impossible is that the ice has sunk. He begins to use magic to produce a bit of air using the inside of the shield. He managed to catch his breath a little. He did not expect these two to join forces to betray him. He was alert while Razor was there, But he did not know there was another one there too. A large part of the surface around the boat is also frozen, and that is not his only problem. There are many creatures there that can pose a deadly threat. The priority is to solve the problem with his leg with the shield. He should be able to break all that ice. Finally, he managed to free himself, but his ankle had been injured. It must have happened when the whip made contact with his skin. The creatures noticed that he is bleeding. Without wasting time, he summoned his sword. He does not have the numerical advantage, but this experience will be an excellent training opportunity. It is his first major challenge since reincarnation, and now he will be able to use his newly acquired skill. His first target is one of the creatures. The sword is shining intensely. An energy projectile had been fired, and several other swords of light appeared in the water, eliminating all hostility. It has been a while since he was able to use this, summoning the Starblade formation. It is time for him to finally enjoy the hunt. Several creatures are heading in his direction, but the swords of light are capable of intercepting their targets. They are heading towards the creatures. This is the true ability of the Caliban sword. It summons several luminous swords capable of flying, as sharp as the original sword. Soon, all those creatures will be completely annihilated. On the surface, things are not easy either. They have to reduce those creatures to nothing, and they are using the frozen surface for support. It has been 5 minutes since everything happened. They are confident that the boy must have departed from the land of the living. Spencer is impressed with Razor's cognitive ability. That plan was brilliant. Moreover, he can defeat all those creatures with ease. It is good that the boy stays by his side, or he could perish at the hands of one of the creatures. But he believes he can be useful, without realizing that the ice beneath his feet began to crack. The cracks widened, and he went to check what it could be, only to be suddenly attacked. The other guy was impressed by that. Something had happened underwater. A large hole in the ice had appeared that is definitely disastrous as a gigantic creature emerged to snack on them. A tentacle from the creature suddenly appeared from the water. He needs to be quick to avoid being reached by it. That creature is at level B, which requires several paladins of the same level to be subdued. If he is not cautious enough, he will end up losing his life. As if that were not enough, the creature has other tricks up its sleeve, firing several projectiles in his direction, but the knight managed to dodge them all. Now he needs to deal with the approaching tentacles. The boy is sure that if he gets caught by that, he will also end up losing his life. The faster he resolves the problem, the greater his chance of survival. His divine weaponry allows him to channel mana through the weapons, releasing that energy through his strikes. As it has a simple operation, his energy discharges are extremely powerful. He is confident that he can subdue the creature with a single blow, but the creature is smarter than one might think. Finally, the knight managed to unleash his most powerful attack, hitting that dangerous monster squarely. But that was not the result he was expecting, for the creature had blocked the attack using the body of another monster. This only complicates the situation even further for him, since his enemy is completely furious. He needed to return to the safety of the vessel. With the ice completely destroyed, he has nothing to lean on to approach the creature. And now he has to worry about the other monsters in the water that leap onto the vessel, intent on annihilating all humans. That demands all of his attention. Unaware that a tentacle was approaching, brutally striking his face. The weapons he possesses were not designed to face multiple opponents. Moreover, he does not have the strategic advantage of the environment. Can he not leave the vessel? He looks outside as the monsters gather. The longer he stays there, the riskier it becomes. However, more impressive than the monsters is the sudden sight of the protagonist emerging from the water. The boy was supposed to have perished a long time ago, and he appeared flying over the shield, defeating a few more monsters. The protagonist saw that the deceiver is in an interesting situation. He just wants to know how the boy managed to stay alive even having been deceived. He is willing to help them in that situation. But Razor does not believe that the boy is capable of helping him. That larger creature is a level B monster. There is nothing he can do against that. But the boy has something to show. The closer he gets, the more tentacles there are. But the protagonist is not unprepared. He is still using Caliban's abilities. The blades manage to intercept all the tentacles. Seeing everything, Razor cannot believe he has perfected the unique ability of his weapon. Those abilities must be difficult to master. Bell warned that he would slice that monster and turn it into fish food. The creature prepares to make a few more shots, launching jets of water at the boy, who was not frightened at all. That attack could end up destroying the vessel entirely. Bell is getting ready to show the creature what he has in store for it, completely changing the formation of the light blades, merging all of them into the original blade. All those swords had fused, creating a lightsaber capable of firing a concentrated energy beam. The creature's attack collides with the boy's counterattack, but his determination to win is much greater. His attack was able to completely pierce the monster's body. Moreover, it passed over it as the blade sliced through. Finally, the creature had been subdued. It is impossible that the boy was able to achieve such a feat. Returning to the vessel, he confirmed that the next would be Spencer, for he needs to pay for what he did earlier. Definitely that boy will be a problem for Jin, thought his servant, and even after that display of strength, he is determined to eliminate the boy right there. He warned him that a bastard would never defeat a level B paladin. Approaching him, the boy finds it surprising that this paladin still believes in victory since he used Spencer for a surprise attack. He is sure that he terrifies him deeply. The two knights observe each other for a moment, until they decide to launch their attack. The clash between their weapons finally occurs. At first, it does not seem that the boy is being pressured, until Razor managed to make the difference in their physical strength more noticeable. Successfully pushing the boy away, he believes this will be enough to decide the combat. But the protagonist is already able to use his sword's abilities, sending him one of the light blades. Knowing what they are capable of, he immediately became worried. Being just one blade, it would not be difficult to defend against that attack. It was all just a trap set by the boy to surprise him at his blind spot. Razor is also capable of using abilities from his divine weapon, completely destroying the light blade. Gradually, its image fades away. He believes the boy will never be able to land a hit on his body. So far, the duel between the two seems quite balanced. It will not be easy to defeat a level B paladin. His mana is being drained very quickly due to the abilities. Because of this, all he has left is that last sword. Being a more experienced knight, he realized that the boy cannot keep using that ability as it has a cost. Advancing mercilessly against him, he wants to end the fight. His strike did not hit the boy as he intended, but the second in the combination struck him squarely. His body, still fragile and undeveloped, cannot withstand that impact. The difference in physical strength between them is proving to be a huge advantage. He could use Aegis to end this, but he fears getting trapped in the darkness. Since close combat is dangerous, he switched weapons, firing several shots at his opponent, who managed to dodge all of them. It was the chance the boy wanted to surprise him with an attack. Realizing the boy's strategy, he noticed that she lacked the agility for it to be effective. He just hadn't counted on the unexpected happening. He used the momentum from the shots to get even closer, making his strike reach the target faster. He almost hit, but only ended up irritating him even more. Seeing that his opponent was more irritated, he realized that his strategy was going very well, for he was surprised by the last blade of light which pierced his back. He wasn't expecting that. With a wound of that size, he won't be able to continue fighting. Realizing that his reading of the boy's strategy was completely wrong. Approaching, the MC warned that it was finally over, and strongly advised him to give up the idea of trying to attack him. The concept of giving up does not apply to him, for he believes that he is a danger to the future of his master Jin. That is why the boy needs to be defeated here and now. In light of this stance, he wants to know why he is so loyal to his brother. It was then that he sought deep memories in his mind. In a battle, he had been brutally weakened. There was no strength left in his body to keep walking. That was as far as he could go. A man is approaching him, stopping in front of his completely obliterated body. He imagines that this man on the ground must be the mercenary responsible for all those crimes. With what little strength he has left, he tried to look at this person. The young man was opening a small vial, pouring its contents over the completely injured boy. He said that today was his lucky day, for ahead would be his master. That is the reason he is so loyal. He had been accepted by Jin, and he needs to repay all that kindness no matter what happens to his life. Completely destroying the blade of light summoned by the boy, what remained of it was thrown to the ground. Bell realized that his enemy had already decided his fate. He thought he was just a thug, but he respected his word as a knight. Now they will fight with full power. The boy remains very angry, being prepared to continue that duel. But Bell had seen that ability once before. It is very powerful but takes time to be ready. That is why he will attack first. The boy had already taken the offensive. As soon as he got closer, he was surprised by a movement. Being hit by his opponent's knee, he realized he had been deceived by a feint and now he risks being defeated. Regaining his composure, he warned that this is not the end, for he had separated from his last chance. A small fragment of the sword had still resisted, making a cut from side to side on his opponent's back. That last blow left him incapacitated. He believed he had destroyed all the swords. It's a shame he was mistaken about that. The boy only made it seem like they had been destroyed. And with that, he managed to build his winning strategy. It was as if the boy had more battle experience than him, something hard to explain. That was challenging. If he hadn't had a trump card, he would have certainly lost. But he was able to defeat Razor, a level B Paladin. This is proof that he had strengthened as planned. The vessel continues its journey to the continent, finally arriving in the city. Sarah is looking for her dear brother, but she still hasn't found him. She continues searching around the castle. The boy doesn't seem to be anywhere. Even so, she keeps going without stopping, until she contemplated the possibility that he may not have returned yet. The problem is that the task he went to perform should have already been completed. She noticed the doors that were open. That is the library. It is possible that her brother is inside, and the girl went there intending to find him, but she ended up encountering another person. Jean stopped in front of her, leaving the girl a bit surprised. Even though they were siblings, his presence is threatening. She is terrified of that situation, but she needs to greet him. When trying to do so, she couldn't find the words while being watched by a threatening gaze, capable of paralyzing her with fear. Passing by her, Jean said that she was worthless. Hesitant, she took a few steps back, until she bumped into something which made her look back. It was his brother who had found her, and he asked Jean what he wanted with Sarah. But he still hadn't answered anything at all. The girl was finally able to rejoice at having found her brother. It is very good to know that he returned safely. Even so, he had gotten hurt once again. He said he ended up encountering a strong monster, this time a level B Paladin named Razor. Even hearing this, Jean did not show any reaction. Bell warned that the boy did not succeed in his trap. Jean simply said that no one cares about that, for they are just small stones in his path, and the same goes for that fool. Now he would continue on his way, for he has no time to waste with stones. There was something the protagonist wanted to say. He informed his brother that he would be the one to succeed the Duke, as Jean is incapable of protecting this family. He immediately turned around after hearing this. Looking at the boy in a threatening manner, they were enveloped by his aura, which was indeed something impressive. But that was not enough to make Bell hesitate in any way. Jean displayed a subtle smile. Seeing that this was interesting, he began to smile even wider. It might be interesting to look at the stones from time to time. Leaving the library, he warned that his brother could try to end him whenever he wished. Sarah was very worried about that dialogue, but she was soon reassured by the protagonist, who knows that it was frightening. That pressure is surreal. Her brother is truly extraordinary. In terms of strength, there is a significant difference between them. To be able to defeat him, Bell needs to reach level A before graduating from the academy. After this incident, a few days had passed. He is ready with his bags packed to leave. The Duke was already waiting for him. Noticing that the boy was also completely prepared, he thanked his father for the support received. The academy requires that students be accompanied by bodyguards. The Duke would send a level B Paladin with him. He said he would be at the boy's service. In light of this, Bell would like to ask something of the Duke, who allowed the boy to say what. But before he could ask, he was surprised, for his sister had appeared with her bags ready as well. She apologized for being late, bringing her bag to the boy. His request is that his sister be allowed to accompany him on this journey. The Duke also wants to understand the boy's motivation. He does not want to leave her alone and would like them to stay together. But he could not allow that. The academy only permits the bodyguard. He is not going there to play. Sarah tried to ask her father to reconsider, but he warned the girl not to ask for that again. So, to solve the problem, he asked her to be his bodyguard. For when he is by her side, aware that he can accomplish anything. Even defeating a level a paladin, the Duke was thoughtful for a moment and found the boy's statement amusing, saying that he could do as he pleased. The carriage departed. It is heading towards the academy. Sarah was quite impressed with all those different things. The two had finally arrived at their destination. That building is truly magnificent. The girl is happy for her brother's achievement. That is an exclusive school for nobles. While he is in classes, he asked his sister to study in the room. Now they need to settle in immediately, but they encountered several students fighting. That is a friendly match among the students, a good opportunity to observe and learn. Sarah was impressed. They all seem very strong, but the protagonist noticed that they still seemed to be at level D. One boy among them stood out significantly, being immediately noticed by the protagonist. But he is only at level C. Only 2 students remained in that fight. And the boy believes that today is his day to find victory, charging against his opponent, determined to finally defeat him. Yet the boy does not feel intimidated. He let the attack approach dangerously. Even Sarah was worried for him. His reaction was even more surprising. All it took for him was a single blow. It doesn't even seem like he used divine weaponry. He is definitely at level B, perhaps stronger than the protagonist. Even the other students are impressed with the outcome. The representative of Rothwincer is incredible. That surname left the protagonist very frightened, for he knows they are a rival family to his. And because of that, he is an enemy to him and his sister. The admission ceremony was about to begin at the academy. They were congratulating the students who had been admitted to the first year. This was being done by the president of the student council. And he wishes that all these freshmen are at least extremely strong individuals. Albert is currently a third-year student, and his family has already produced several notable paladins they never met in his past life, but he knows that at 18, he was already at level S. He immediately began to wonder if he was involved in that incident. It's possible that he is one of the culprits. They are saying that boy is very intimidating and is already at level B. It seems there are more students in the student council who are at the same level. The council is made up of those who held the top 4 positions in the martial arts event, and the title of president is awarded to the champion of the event. Definitely, Albert is very strong. The protagonist does not know if his tormentor is this person. But to avoid that attack in the future, he needs to show his enemies how strong he can be. The academy does not hold elections for the council. Students are selected based on martial skills. And the protagonist wishes to participate as well so that he can defeat Albert in combat. Inside the classroom, he waits for the teacher to arrive. Someone is coming to sit next to him. He asked if there was anyone in that seat. Bell said there was no one and that he could sit there. That boy's name is Lime Flex Seal, and he hopes they can have pleasant years at the academy. But there was something that caught his attention. The surname of that boy was not strange. Seeing the protagonist's reaction, he became a bit curious. He said it was nothing, but he was quite surprised. A few years in the future, he will eradicate some nobles due to a personal vendetta, earning the title of the Knight of Retribution. Even though today he is just a fraction of what he will one day become, Lime asked for the protagonist's name. He was about to give the answer, remembering that his father advised him not to reveal which house he belongs to. Many people could help him just because of his surname. This would prevent his purpose at Academy from being fulfilled. He needs to prove his worth through his own effort. The name invented by the protagonist is Label Slayer. He will continue to hide his identity until he defeats Albert. Lime, hearing that surname, imagined that he also belonged to the commoner class. The insignia on each of their uniforms shows which class they belong to. Commoners wear a circle, while nobles use a star. Bell confirmed that he is also a commoner, while Lime belongs to a barony of commoners. And in that school, there are many who belong to noble families. Commoners are the minority. Knowing they belong to the same class, he hopes they can get along well. It is interesting for the protagonist to befriend a promising knight. Lime could be a great ally, as in his past life he did not make friends. This turned out to be somewhat pleasant. A boy is approaching them. As he already knows Lime, it seems he came over just to bother him. This is Roger. He did not expect to be in the same class as his friend from his hometown. Everyone knows he is the son of A and is already at level D. He wants to know why that little boy is there too. He took the admission exam just like everyone else. Roger ended up congratulating him for that, but Lime seemed quite uncomfortable approaching. He warned that Athena was not a place for him, as he is just a commoner, so it would be better if he left soon. The boy felt quite uncomfortable, and Roger warned that slaves must obey their masters. He could crush someone of his status using just his words. Belle intervened, stating that that was enough. Lime began to feel anxious for the new friend he had made. Roger also wants to know who this boy is, soon noticing that he is also a commoner, looking at him with all the disdain he possesses. Belle told the boy to get out of there. No matter if he is a commoner or not, Roger decided he would let him go, making a sudden move towards the boy. He had kicked Lime. Belle ended up worrying about his new friend. Roger is enjoying that situation. Belle said he is just a bastard who shouldn't even consider himself a paladin because he belongs to the nobility. He should care about commoners. But he said that the poor only exist to be exploited by the nobles. Belle warned that his understanding is very limited. A county can fall as quickly as a commoner. Roger seems like he is going to use magic, asking if the boy wants to fight him. Now he had his divine weapon in hand. Seeing that conflict is inevitable, he asked Lime to step back. He is about to summon his divine armament as well. Roger was quite intrigued by that, while the protagonist warned that he would force a bit of common sense into his head. Seeing that sheath, he began to despise him even more. He must be just a nobody for having such a useless divine armament, unable to crush even a fly. And the protagonist warned that Roger must be less than a fly then. He doesn't like being underestimated by commoners and decided he would put an end to him. The protagonist is eager to see if he is capable of that. The whole class became interested in that fight. Roger charges at him, unaware that he is merely a background character. The protagonist is prepared for the battle, watching very closely the scythe of his opponent. But a mysterious hand had appeared, positioning itself between the two. The music from that woman was able to prevent the conflict. The sound she produced bothered both of them then. She said they shouldn't fight, as they are in the same class, and asked them to pay attention to her words. Belle doesn't know who this girl is, but she continues playing her lyre, introducing herself to them. She said her name is Silpha. She comes from the Elpage family, which consists of marquises, a rank of nobility higher than Roger's. The teacher entered the room, asking the students to sit down as the class was about to begin with the first task. She would evaluate her students' abilities. They should use their divine weapons to attack that target as if it were a monster. They should aim at those golems, and show her the true power they possess. The first student demonstrates his skills, charging at the target wielding a sword, delivering the first cut, but the target was too tough. He was unable to do anything, just a very superficial cut. Immediately, the structure regenerated, something that was noticed by the protagonist. Several students tried to attack it as well. The teacher realized that most of the students are still at level E, as most of them can barely produce elemental damage. It's Lime's turn to demonstrate his skills. That spear has no magical power. He must be the only one at level F in that evaluation. The boy charges at the target, driving the tips of his spear into its interior. And like some others, he was thrown far away. Roger said he is just a useless person incapable of using magic. The boy begins to get up. Roger was going to show the difference between him and the trash. His divine weapon shines like fire. He attacks with great confidence, and the blade of his scythe embedded itself in the target, leaving behind significant destruction. Some of his classmates were impressed. The teacher liked the performance. As he is at level D, Roger imagines he must be the best student in that class now. It's the blonde girl's turn. Finally, her time has come. Starting to play her lyre, her attack was underway. Her classmates are bothered by that sound. And the sound waves are also destructive, producing even greater destruction on that target. Those two are on a completely different level from the others. Roger is very polite to her and only respects her because she is a noble higher than him. He only did that to maintain a good impression with the nobility, but she said she would prefer if he didn't try to do that. She had already been thinking about it earlier in the academy. They are all equal. Noble titles are irrelevant in that space. Roger was upset for being ignored. The next to take the exam will be the protagonist. And the arrogant boy believes that the commoner will be a failure, for he will not be able to do absolutely anything with that sheath. Belle apologized as he would not use a sheath as a weapon, wielding Caliban to execute his attack. Roger was impressed as that boy has more than one divine weapon, but after being surprised, he realized that weapon has no magic. And after hitting the target, he would be repelled far away. The protagonist just wished he would pay attention. He is about to execute his attack. With a great barrage of strikes, he completely destroyed the target. All that remained of it were just pieces. His classmates were left in awe at that display of strength. Even the teacher is impressed as the golem was cut without the aid of magic. But with the boy's skill, he doesn't even need to resort to that. Roger cannot accept that there is such a talented commoner. Lime went to his new friend to congratulate him on what he had accomplished. He warned that it was simple. Even Lime would be capable. The boy is very impressed as he still cannot master magic. Bell noted that his judgment about the boy is not wrong. His divine weapon has great potential. As long as he doesn't give up, he could become the most powerful holy knight. Lime felt very embarrassed by those words of encouragement. Until the blonde girl appeared between them. She wants to know how that boy is so talented. But her closeness bothered the protagonist. Several other students were also interested. Some were unable to see his strikes. One of them said that this sword must be the most powerful divine artifact among the freshmen. Roger heard those words, and out of fear, the boy ended up correcting himself, saying that Roger's weapon was stronger. This only made him even more outraged. The tasks for that day had already ended. The next class would be a practical test. They would be hunting monsters in the forest behind the school, and it's good that all of them are prepared. The students still want to know more about that talented boy. Roger called his bodyguard, who appeared immediately. He has a worn-out and poorly designed expression. Roger brought a familiar for protection, and will need him for tomorrow's task. The knight asked if he wishes to use it during the task. The boy said he has no problem with that, and his knight stated that the young man's actions are always courageous. Roger wants to see the terror on the faces of the commoners and the nobility of the lower clergy, for he will send that proud commoner straight to hell. Outside the academy, they are preparing for class. The monsters there start at level F. And some level E monsters have also been released. Their task is to hunt these creatures. The one who defeats the most of them will receive extra points. Roger cannot hide that he is a mischievous boy. Finally, the practice had begun. It's time to show what they are capable of. The girl wants to compete with the protagonist to see who can take first place. Little does she know that first place already has an owner. He needs to show his strength to all of them. Lime wished to accompany him, for he still does not have the confidence to fight alone. Yet he allowed her to accompany him, but made it clear that he would not go easy. Running towards the forest, he asked to be followed. It didn't take long for him to encounter several creatures, but they do not pose a true challenge for the protagonist, who was cutting those monsters as if they were pieces of paper. His classmates are also very dedicated. He had already defeated 15 monsters. It's so easy that it doesn't even feel like a warm-up. Lime is quite impressed with her classmates' performance, but they don't have time to chat. One of the creatures had appeared behind the boy, but he ended up being saved by the protagonist. He needs to stay very alert, as the number of creatures is greater than expected. Lime needs to fight against her own fears. Her classmates are managing to progress normally, and the creatures are being defeated. She knows she needs to put in much more effort than this. Hidden in the forest, Roger continues to observe his adversaries filled with envy. He believes these commoners are arrogant. That's why he will make them pay. Soon they will meet the end of their lives. Wielding a staff, he is about to summon something. The protagonist noted the emergence of that magic circle. He was immediately intrigued, for from within it was emerging a creature. A monstrosity capable of dominating fire. That is a dangerous salamander. Its mouth is huge, and its teeth extremely sharp. All the students were worried about that appearance. While they flee, the protagonist remains still. Lime cannot believe that such a creature had appeared, and it was already prepared to attack anyone, leaving the boy completely terrified. For the second time, he needed to be saved by the protagonist, who managed to block those flames using his shield. He ordered the boy to flee along with the others. A level B creature was not supposed to have appeared in the forest, but that is irrelevant. It will end up being very fun. Sending his light swords against the creature, they managed to cut through its hard scales. Roger did not imagine that the commoner could use unique abilities. He needs to increase the difficulty. And he called his knight once again, who is ready to carry out all his orders. The creature was surrounded by the light swords. Lime found that incredible. Her classmate is pressuring a powerful creature. The time for it to disappear has come. The light swords are ready to deliver a fatal blow, but the knight would not allow that to happen. sabotaging the boy's attack, and soon realized what had happened. There was another person there in the forest who began to approach them, claiming that that unique ability is indeed impressive. Assuming he is the master of that creature, he asked what he desires. The knight stated that he would not leave there without the boy's head. The salamander resumed throwing fireballs, while the knight also attacked. The attacks are on a collision course and end up hitting each other, raising a huge cloud of steam. To dissipate that, he used the wind from the shield. But the knight had already gotten ahead, using a water prison to isolate each of those blades. They seemed to be incapacitated. That water prison had sealed their abilities. This is definitely a level B paladin. The protagonist found himself surrounded by challenging adversaries. Both the salamander and the knight continued attacking. Now he needs to deal with both of them, defending one with the shield and cutting the other with his sword. With his current level of power, that is beyond his capabilities. Lime doesn't know what he should do at this rate. His friend will end up being defeated. He saw Roger in the middle of the forest. His presence is definitely suspicious. That is the staff of his family, used for summoning. He immediately approached Roger, who didn't expect the boy to find him. He asked if that familiar belonged to him. He should stop this now, as the protagonist is in danger. Roger attacked him without thinking twice. He ordered the weak to stay on the ground. It is unfortunate that he is unable to do anything to help someone he began to remember when he was still training as a child. It was pathetic that he couldn't use magic, and he was humiliated several times by that boy, but things couldn't continue like that, so he stood up as he remembered the protagonist's words to him. That was the first time someone spoke such encouraging words to him. He won't let his friend die, as he decided he will save him. But Roger doesn't believe that the weak can do anything, because worms are just worms. Lime told him to shut up, and he shouldn't measure his worth without his permission. Roger began to get a little worried. He warned that he wouldn't be defeated just because the boy can use magic from now on. Lime agrees with that statement. The idiot's scythe began to glow as well. He needed to get rid of the trash now, but Lime exuded great confidence. His spear was able to freeze those flames, causing them to disappear completely. A completely unexpected result. The real trash there has red hair. Roger is getting more and more irritated, charging furiously at his classmate, but his spear was much more powerful, being able to block that attack. The weapons clashed and are now intertwined. Roger can't believe that, and Lime knows exactly what he is doing. Simply put, he destroyed the boy's divine weapon, which fell to its knees. He is unable to accept what has happened. It is not possible that he has been defeated by a level F paladin. It is even strange that Lime has always been afraid of that poor boy, because now he feels absolutely nothing. He ordered him to hand over the summoning staff. Roger asked if he knew what he was doing. He comes from a large county and could destroy the boy's entire family. But it seems he still hasn't understood the reality of that situation. Lime tried to cooperate with the boy while freezing his legs, once again ordering him to hand over the staff with his underwear completely obliterated. He agreed to hand over the item, only asking to be spared as he wouldn't do anything cruel again. He had been completely defeated and humiliated. The staff had now changed hands. Lime warned Roger to stay away from him and his friend, or things could get complicated. He ended up relaxing a bit, while Roger thought of ways to act. The chain of his weapon was still within his reach, and soon the other end of it began to glow. A stealth attack was underway. Roger believed he would defeat that boy, but Lime was completely aware of that, blocking that mediocre attack. It is truly regrettable that he decided to act this way. The summoning staff was on the ground, being completely destroyed by the boy, leaving Roger speechless. He can't believe that item had been destroyed. Gradually, the salamander begins to disappear, a very unexpected result for that knight, immediately realizing that something had happened to his master. From afar, he could see that he had been subdued. Then he turned his attention to that other peasant, but he couldn't do that so easily since he doesn't have time to be distracted. The true author of those actions had been discovered. It seems he wanted to end the protagonist. It's a shame it happened this way. In a fair fight, that knight would never be able to defeat him. All he can do is curse the boy, firing several times at him, missing all the shots. His situation just got even more complicated. That knight, even though he is at level B, is at the end of the line. The protagonist struck his head with the hilt of the sword. The gap between their abilities is too great. Bell warned that he would turn him in to the teacher, so he needs to use his last resort. Immediately prostrating himself, he begged for mercy. That was so sudden that the protagonist was surprised. The knight said he was just following his master's orders. Disobeying a noble is really not an easy task. That was what the knight desired, to catch the boy off guard, finally receiving forgiveness for his actions. He thanks but thinks of deceiving him. Only then did the boy warn that he was just playing with him. Lime went to his friend, wanting to know if he was hurt. The protagonist knows that it was Lime's help that prevented the worst from happening. The boy was just returning the favor. That touch of hands established the friendship between them. Other students also appeared there, thanking for the help. It is impressive that he defeated a Blevel knight. But that is not all that had happened. That knight is one of Roger's allies. The fire salamander is directly related to them. And for what he had done, Lime began to be cheered by his classmates. It seems that, in the end, he really was very strong. Humbly Lime thanks those compliments. As expected from the knight, he will become one day. Someone was watching all of this from afar. The blonde girl seems to have liked what she saw. Understanding how that boy's divine weapon works, the task was finally completed. And Roger will be punished for his actions. The girl was waiting for them at the end of the hallway. She has something to say to the protagonist. Looking at her, he remembered that her name is Sylpha. He asked what she wanted. She already knows that this is Avalon, the name of his divine weapon. That immediately surprised him. She also knows that this is the sacred weapon of the heroes of the past. He does not know how that girl knows Avalon. From the protagonist's facial expression, she is completely right. She is the first person to know the nature of this divine weapon. Her objective is very simple. She puts her hands together in front of him, and bowing, she politely asks to see that weapon. She has always admired this weaponry, the weapon of heroes, which is why she would like to see it. Since it is a simple request, he showed the sheath to her. She was quite impressed. She did not imagine it would be something real. The protagonist wants to know how she knew about this item, saying that there is a legend in her mother's family about a hero who possessed a sheath with various weapons. It is possible that one of the ancestors is from her family. Lime still does not understand the whole story, but he knows that his friend's divine weapon must be incredible. The girl was very grateful, as one of her dreams had come true. As a return, she invited the MC to that innocent meeting. Lime liked this idea a lot, and the protagonist thought it would be interesting to get to know the city. He agreed to this, but said he would take someone with him. The young people are inside the cafeteria. Sarah loved the taste of that strawberry pie. Belle is very happy that her sister is also enjoying it. The girl did not imagine that the protagonist had such a beautiful sister. Seeing that she is having fun is even more pleasant for the protagonist. He is also having a lot of fun. In his past life, he did not have experiences like this. The blonde girl asked for everyone's attention. She was going to play a song for all of them. It would be interesting to hear a song played by a divine weapon. The girl began to play her lyre, but the sound was simply dreadful. Her musical proficiency is terrible. The girl knows she plays very badly. She did this just to entertain her friends. Other people also found it very fun and asked her to keep playing, pointing at Lime. She said he should sing too. The two were entertaining everyone inside the cafeteria. That ended up becoming a very fun performance. Those two are his first true friends in his entire life. Outside, they are commenting that it had been quite fun. The girl would like to take Sarah to buy some clothes. He would not let his sister be alone, but his friend said that this is a girl's matter. The protagonist was quite disappointed. He just asked to be informed if anything happened, and the girl realized that he is an excellent brother. Sarah wants to know if she also has siblings. A little saddened, she said she does not have any. Apparently someone was looking for Sylpha. That person is named Avalini. He is one of the students from the student council. This is an unusual introduction for half-siblings. She should have been more polite, but she does not see him as a brother. The boy went there to make her train, because her divine weapon, if perfected, will one day be useful to him. The girl had already warned that she is not interested in participating in wars. Rolling up his sleeves, he said it is very problematic that she has this attitude. It seems he will have to drag her by force. A little blood began to seep from the palm of his hand, until the liquid started to gush intensely. Sarah was very scared by that scene, and the boy was manipulating it as he pleased. A divine weapon that uses blood, she called for Mary, her bodyguard, but the boy had already taken control of that situation. Looking back, she realized that her bodyguard had been defeated. This makes the situation problematic. Her brother said they needed to leave now, and she asked Sarah to run away. As things could get dangerous, she needed to draw her weapon to defend herself, but she was unable to handle that attack. The young man realized that if she called for help, things would get problematic. So he needed to resolve this immediately. Sarah is about to be attacked, but she ended up being saved by her brother's friend. Silpha fell to the ground, very weakened. It was foolish of her to do that, but now she wouldn't be able to resist him, who used his ability to capture her, lifting her body off the ground. Sarah is still quite terrified, and the blonde girl had lost consciousness. The cause of this was her brother. Desperate, Sarah called for the protagonist's help. He quickly approached the scene, cutting the tentacles of that boy, who did not expect this kind of intervention. The blonde girl had been rescued. Witnessing that left Sarah quite relieved. The protagonist wants to know what this boy wants with his friend. The pleasant moment they were having had been destroyed. That mysterious boy asked if the protagonist is one of his sister's friends. Not that it was important, but it's better if he doesn't get involved in family matters. The protagonist asked Lime to take care of the girls, as he has a face to smash now. But the young man is surprised by that attitude. He warned that there is no merit in defending that girl. Using his sword to cut those attacks is very easy, which left the young man quite impressed. Helping a friend is something completely natural. Delivering an attack against him, the young man protected himself with a shield, warning that it was a waste of time. That blood shield is really impressive. It seems that his sword won't work against this. He can't waste his mana in that fight. The young man was already prepared to attack, but the protagonist managed to dodge it. Recognizing that the protagonist is very annoying, he warned that he would finish everything soon, unleashing several attacks against him, a rather predictable attack. Then the boy wielded the fire spitter. Seeing that the boy had more than one divine weapon, he realized that he was not an ordinary opponent. It was the protagonist's turn to fire now. Managing to stop all the attacks coming his way, it seems they are at an impasse. Seeing that he intercepted his attacks only makes that fight even more complicated. But he is determined to capture his sister. Producing a spear made of blood. That move will be the last. The protagonist confirmed that it really would be. Both attacked each other with everything they had. Some people on the roof said this is quite interesting. Looking up, they noticed the arrival of those people. One of them, upon falling to the ground, destroyed the stones of the sidewalk. He had landed between the two. Demonstrating his strength, he would like to join that fight as well. The protagonist knows he belongs to the student council. While the blue-haired boy wants to know what Zeal is doing there, he warned that he is being too rough with the kids. The girl said that behavior is quite embarrassing as he is a big weakling. Seeing his two friends, he decided to stop his attacks, but Zeal would like the fight to last a little longer, making his whole body shine. He said it was good that they went all out. His entire body was covered in armor. Besides being large, he has a powerful presence. The girl asked the muscular one to do his job while summoning several chains. This was necessary to prevent him from taking drastic actions. They did not come there to continue a fight. Seeing that magical power, the protagonist realized that she is also very strong. Zeal managed to break the chains without much effort. He said that Avalon has responsibilities with the student council, alongside Albert. Because of that, he will spend a month on an expedition in the forest. The task starts immediately. He realized he had no other choice to make. Leaving there, he warned that he would get his sister in a month. The girl said goodbye to the rookie weakling. It is a relief that they have all left. The student council members are all monsters. Looking back, he checked if his friends were okay. She said she wasn't hurt and apologized for involving him in that, but the protagonist said it wasn't necessary. He just wants to know why she and her brother are fighting. The reason for this is that he wants to use her. As he is the next heir, when he finishes his graduation, he will try to expand his own territory by attacking unexplored regions. Lime knows that those lands are filled with powerful creatures. Her brother believes that her divine weapon will be a powerful artifact in the war. But she does not want to fight. Her intention is to become stronger and become the heir. It is the same situation in which the protagonist is involved. The problem is that she couldn't do anything. She is far from being able to defeat him. Sarah said that this is not true. As that girl was able to protect her, it seems that this brought her a glimmer of hope. Sarah is quite grateful for what happened. Even the protagonist wishes to express his gratitude, and he went to the girl to do so. Being able to save a person is what makes them strong. In the past he couldn't. He said she should have confidence. For if she lacks strength, she can train. Lime said he would help her too. At first she doesn't even know what to say. But she is very grateful for her new friends. The protagonist knows that last attack could have been fatal. In a month he will return, so Bell needs to get stronger. To do this, he needs to unlock his unique ability. He needs the permission of the predecessors to acquire new skills and must return to that space. Closing his eyes, he began to concentrate, channeling his mana through the sheath. He was welcomed by all other predecessors. It has been a while since they last saw each other. The boy has a request to make, but they already know what it is. For they saw everything that happened in the last battle. That artifact was a bit problematic. That boy can shape things freely. It resembles Avalon itself quite a bit. They fall into a brief silence. The comedian warned that if he burns that blood, everything will be resolved, and the boy thinks exactly the same way. That's why he wants his ability. Something the comedian agreed to do without hesitation, just to show that it had been a joke. He really enjoys being a comedian. Charlotte said he should stop with that kind of joke. But this is much stronger than him. It's cool to be funny, and that ability consumes a lot of magical power. If he used it now, he would soon be completely exhausted. But he has a condition for that. Before the rematch, he should make 300 shots per day. That way, he will consider the ability for the boy. The problem is that this is unattainable. All he can do are 100 shots in a single day. But the comedian doesn't want to hear excuses, and as soon as he manages to do that, he must return. After speaking, he snapped his fingers. The boy was sent back to his body. Recognizing that, besides being funny, the comedian is a bit wicked, he soon realized that to use the ability, he would need to triple his current magical power. The problem is that this might not be possible. The predecessors agree that this is an impossible challenge. There is no way for the boy to increase his magical power that much. But he is interested in seeing the boy's progress. For if he cannot get stronger, he will not be able to win. The protagonist went to the forest. There, he began to make his shots. Defeating some creatures, that is not so difficult to do. But the workload is really exhausting. The only way to increase his magical power is by hunting creatures. So, he will hunt everything he can find. His friends are impressed with the strength he possesses. It was good that they accompanied him too. They all want to get stronger. Indeed, the protagonist has good friends that contributes to his progress. After making 100 shots, he feels drained, and by hunting he increased his power a bit, but it still wasn't enough. That progress is far from ideal. Then, he heard a terrifying roar in the forest. That doesn't seem to have come from an orc. It could be that his friends are in danger. Finally, the protagonist found the creature. It was lying on the ground, as if it were sleeping. Beside its body are his two friends, celebrating what they had managed to do. The girl praised Bell's work. Even he was curious to know if his friends had defeated that creature. And that is exactly what had happened. That is a sea-level creature. He thought his friends were at a lower level. Since they wouldn't be able to defeat it normally, they thought of an efficient strategy. First, they surrounded the enemy with ice. Then, the girl attacked with her sound waves, which were reflected by the ice around her. Indeed, it was an impressive plan. Those two have an interesting synergy that was the result of their combined attack, and the protagonist had an idea too. Now, he knows how he will be able to shoot more times. Meanwhile, more creatures had appeared. Several orcs, like the one that had been defeated. A large group like this will be very problematic, as they are all very tired. But the protagonist has a brilliant idea. He can still keep fighting. They would never imagine that the protagonist could do all that. Seeing that he rushed out, the girl remembered that he had something to do. The predecessors did not expect the boy to return so quickly. The comedian hopes he is not trying to change the terms of the agreement. But the boy said he had already completed the task. Something that left them quite perplexed. It is not possible that he did this in just one day. The comedian stated that he is the one who makes the jokes there, but the boy is unyielding. They asked him to show in a fight what had changed. He would have to make all those shots during a fight. They could use other weapons if they wanted. Unless, of course, he was scared. But the protagonist liked that a lot. He just needed the signal to be given and the battle would begin. They are properly prepared and the comedian is eager to see that progress. The elderly man gave the signal to start. Bell already had the pistol in hand. But the comedian had already made the first shot, which hit the boy. He said he was too slow and needed to improve on that. As expected from the original user of that weapon, he is much faster. It seems the comedian is in his no-jokes mode. And the protagonist does not want to lose that duel. The two fired several times, leaving the comedian quite impressed. Charlotte said the boy is very good and now she understands why the elderly man decided to train him. In fact, he is very proud of his pupil. The shy one said that the real battle would still begin. Charlotte did not like his tone of voice, but he reminded them that they need to see if the boy is still capable of making shots. Even Adam agreed. 100 shots will not be enough. The boy continues to put in a lot of effort, but that still had not become challenging for the comedian. And soon the boy was losing stamina. Adam had counted all of them and the boy made 97 shots. Seeing that the battle would be somewhat uninteresting, the comedian would end it soon. But the protagonist has a trick up his sleeve. He summoned the powerful shield. This way he would be able to protect himself a bit more. This made the comedian rethink his strategy. The boy was going to use the wind as well, causing the wind to pass through the pistol. The comedian wants to know what he intends to do with that, but with a little smile, our MC said those bullets are useless. He managed to strengthen his shot with the wind, surpassing the comedian's strength, who was quite surprised that combination allows him to increase his power, even if he has little magical power. For the first time, the comedian had been pressured in this battle. Not even the boy's mentor had thought of this possibility. Charlotte is rooting for him, hoping he can defeat the comedian. He wanted to know why the boy did not use this strategy from the beginning, reminding him that he had fallen into a trap before, and now it is time to return the favor to him. But hiding that ability may not change things. Now the boy needs to dodge all those shots, and the fight became much more balanced again, as the protagonist was able to hit the comedian's first shot. Since his magical power is also running low, while the boy remains steadfast in his strategy, the situation had become quite complicated. His opponent was being pressured. It is time to end this, but the comedian is not an easy enemy to defeat. He hid behind his flames, preventing the boy from knowing his true position. In addition to not knowing where the shots are coming from, he was soon hit in the back, which gave him a clue about the comedian's location. But he had already repositioned himself. Hitting the boy once again, all he needs to do is keep hiding behind the flames. As the protagonist had been completely cornered, he needs to push that fire away using the wind. And that is exactly what he did, to find the comedian who could no longer hide behind the flames. Now he had a clear view and would hit his target, but he could not make any shot definitely. This situation is complicated. The other predecessors imagined that he might have exhausted his magical power, leaving him completely vulnerable to the comedian, but he had also run out of bullets. The last impact happened, causing the comedian to fall to his knees. He had been pushed to the limit, just like the boy in that duel who was able to make 301 shots. After that, he was completely exhausted. He had won by a narrow margin. Seeing the protagonist's effort, the comedian was very happy, extending his hand to him. Finally, he had approved him and would release the unique ability of his instrument. In a very polite manner, he helped the boy to stand up again, who was very grateful for being recognized. He needed to perfect his knowledge of that divine ability. Receiving another ability, he is confident that he can defeat that other jerk. All the comedian genuinely wishes is for his protege to win this battle, and he assured that he would bring victory. A few days passed, and the protagonist continues training in the forest. It is essential for him to keep getting stronger. Little by little, he is further perfecting his mastery of his skill. His friends approach to see what has happened. That unique ability of his is truly impressive. The girl asked if he could give some tips, so they could learn too. All he can say is to keep defeating monsters. That is the only path he knows, but he knows a training method to enhance the power they already possess, learned from his master. They need to sit down, close their eyes, and concentrate. By making that symbol with their hands, this is the easiest way to circulate magical power throughout the body. By doing that meditation for an hour a day, the magical power can grow more quickly. In addition to contributing to its refinement, it becomes easier to release the power during battle. They decided they would try to do this too. This practice does not bring immediate results, but in the long run it is quite effective. His friends begin to circulate magic through their bodies. The protagonist noticed that they made progress too quickly. Perhaps their progress is well above average. He couldn't fall behind. He decided he would continue training. That would also contribute to strengthening his unique ability. But 5 days passed, and the group of friends continues training. After 10 days, they were already dueling each other to become even stronger. In total, 20 days have passed, and they continue training diligently. After a month, they met again with the jerk. This time, he did not go to fetch his sister alone. It has been a while since they last saw each other. Even the girl had become stronger. The jerk ordered his servant to take the girl, as he would deal with that annoyance. The servant understood the orders given, but the girl was not going to make this task easy at all. Immediately, she attacked him with her divine weapon, but the servant was quick enough to dodge those attacks. Lime would not let her fight alone. Charging at that servant recklessly, he would not allow her to be taken without a fight on the other side. It is time for the protagonist to settle his matters. He only had one question: what will that guy do with his own sister? Her divine weapon is special, passed down through generations, capable of controlling people through sound. Thus, she can turn people into instruments of battle, making war much easier. Indeed, that is a completely despicable goal. He just wants to make his life easier. His sister is nothing more than a mere tool. The protagonist does not need further explanations, for that guy is not worthy of being called a brother. He warned that anger will not make that weapon work against him, but that is exactly what they will see now. He found the protagonist's stance strange, for the gun was pointed at its own user, who began to use his unique ability. The flames were aimed at his own heart. They now enveloped his entire body. That is the incineration of the soul, an impressive technique. Even though he was not impressed, the jerk recognized that this would be troublesome. The protagonist had become much stronger, and wings emerged from his back. With that, all his physical attributes were enhanced. He is capable of approaching the enemy much more quickly. All the jerk does is fire a few shots, but that is completely useless, for his flames can burn all that blood. Something the jerk was not expecting. It is time for the protagonist to kill him until nothing remains. Preparing relentlessly to strike him with a punch, the jerk immediately produced a shield for his protection, which was able to withstand the first impact. For crushed as it was, it would not be able to protect against the second. Thus, the protagonist managed to hit him in the face, throwing the poor guy's body away. The blood he has now is completely useless. He should give up and go home, but that is not all he has to show. The jerk had gotten back up. His eyes were also completely transformed. The surface of his skin underwent a transformation. The sensation is that his blood had come to a boil with that form. He became much more powerful, and the protagonist cannot say what that is. That is the blood of a dragon. That ability transforms his entire body. He now resembles a dragon. He warned the protagonist that he should feel proud of this and regret it at the same time. His sharp claws are already prepared, for he would feel all his fury now. Bell pays close attention to his advance. With his enhanced abilities, he was able to dodge that. Even so, he was superficially cut. His opponent was intrigued. He thought he had hit the target. While he was thinking, the protagonist prepared an attack. Launching his flames against him, he managed to hit him accurately. Now he will make everything explode into the air. The resulting destruction is indeed impressive. A lot of smoke had risen into the air, but his opponent seems to be completely intact. He said that attack had been pathetic. The scales on his body remained clean. There were no signs or traces of soot, or that they had been burned. He advances against the protagonist, ready to slice him. Just fire won't be enough for that opponent, so he decided he would crush him with his fists. The two are on a collision course. Bell had to dodge those claws once again. Only then would he have the chance to hit him, landing a blow on the side of his opponent. Feeling the power on his own skin, he was not impressed at all. Those scales are also very resistant to impact. The protagonist became distracted with his thoughts, being surprised by the dragon's tail, which threw him towards the ground, while preparing a powerful magic to annihilate him. Bell knows he needs to defend against that immediately, sending a fireball to avoid being hit. But his opponent's attack is much more devastating. A large explosion occurred in the air. The boy appears to be quite tired. Even though he is persistent, he is clearly at his limit, and the dragon is capable of making several of those attacks. This will make things much more complicated for him, for the protagonist needs to use even more of his magical power, and on the ground, his friends are engaged in another fight. Their enemy is probably at level B. They decided they would make a combined attack. The silent enemy is just waiting for their movement. Lime is the first to advance, causing his opponent to need to defend. The boy had planted his spear in the ground that left his opponent slightly thoughtful, finally realizing he was surrounded by walls of ice. This is the time for the girl to spring into action. She was already getting closer, sending powerful sound waves against her opponent. That combination was enough to defeat a monster more powerful than they. They believe the fight will be finished, but the knight said that all of that is completely useless. He struck his staff on the ground. A black and mysterious circle had appeared, completely sucking in the sound waves of the attack, until there was absolutely nothing left. An unexpected result for the boy. Still with his staff resting on the ground, he prepared an attack capable of annihilating them. The black portal had grown larger, releasing the sound waves that had been absorbed. Thanks to his absorption, those attacks are completely useless. The girl is still thinking about what had happened. The knight apologized to her, but he needs to take her, as he had received orders from his master. Lime would not let that happen, and the knight warned the boy not to interfere, but he would never listen to those words. So he would need to be subdued. He is still quite inexperienced in combat. The girl saw that her friend was also having difficulties. Knowing she needs to help him, she became desperate, as she cannot move her body. Meanwhile, the boy continues to be beaten. She only wished she had a little more strength to resist. She remembered the protagonist's words, that training would help her unleash her power in battle. All she needed to do was calm down. Thus, she would be able to concentrate on the magical power of her body. Believing she would be able to fight, she is ready to save her friend. His skull will be completely crushed by that staff. But the sound waves flew through the air. Lime managed to react in time. It is not yet his time to be defeated. And the poor knight was quite intrigued by what was happening. That is the work of the sound produced by the girl. Lime can hear her friend perfectly. The music she plays is very beautiful, and that music transforms into strength in the boy's body, who is now able to press his opponent, being able to unbalance him. The knight does not know where that child drew so much strength from. His divine weapon shone intensely. Ready to freeze him, the ice plates emerged from the ground, advancing towards the knight, who is sure he is in trouble. He will not be able to absorb all of that, being completely suffocated by the ice in the air. The protagonist is already close to his limit. The fight is about to end. But he saw that his friends managed to succeed. Only the jerk in front of him remains to be defeated. What he will do now is a gamble, as he will use his hidden trump card. The dragon was intrigued to realize that the boy was still hiding his strength, but that wouldn't make a difference, as he would come to know true despair. The battle between the two intensifies even further, for the dragon is also increasing its power. About to unleash a devastating attack, the protagonist knows that his opponent will launch his most powerful attack, but he also has something to do to make it work. He just needs to survive. The dragon had finally completed the charging phase of its ability, unleashing all its power against the protagonist. That energy sphere is indeed much larger, an unexpected size that could complicate things. The boy needs to act quickly to avoid being defeated. The only thing he has is this attack, launching his flames to avoid being hit. But the dragon continues to produce even more power, a force that the protagonist cannot withstand. He had been subdued by his opponent. It seems that the battle had finally come to an end. This was not the ending the dragon desired. It wanted something more exciting. Only then did it realize that the protagonist had reached its back. He became distracted and did not pay attention to his own defense while he was charging all that power. The boy had made a clone with his own flames, which was destroyed by the dragon. Abilities that he did not expect the protagonist to master. Very confident, he believes that the MC cannot harm him, as his attacks are weak. It is time for him to show the progress of his training, for it was in this that he managed to perfect his mastery of magic. The dragon felt that the boy's arm was coated in mana. His attacks may not have worked until now, but that punch will be very different. Looking back, the dragon realized that this was quite dangerous. Those blue flames are a trump card for the boy, striking the back of his enemy with his glorious fist, causing him intense and agonizing pain strong enough to destroy the dragon's scales. It is impossible that he has been defeated by a child. After a while, he managed to open his eyes. His body was completely immobilized by ice. He and his servant had been defeated. The dragon imagined he would be bothered by the children, but since he was defeated, it does not trouble him. There is something the girl wants to say to him. She will not let him start a war. She will not be his tool, and it is good that he has understood that. Unexpectedly, it seems he agreed. He would do exactly as the girl asked, words so strange to hear that they were left in doubt. Even so, Lime extinguished her divine weapon, causing the ice to disappear. The girl asked him not to come see her again. Without responding to her, he simply asked his knight to accompany him. The two are now leaving. That battle had been exhausting for everyone, and it is impressive that the protagonist was able to defeat a member of the student council. He said it was by a narrow margin. The girl stood up to talk to her friends, and one day she will repay all that kindness. But they are friends, and that is not how things happen. Hearing this, she made sure to clarify. They are best friends, words that made the protagonist very happy. After this battle, they may be in the sights of the other members of the student council, so he needs to become even stronger, especially in relation to Albert. For he does not want another tragedy to repeat itself. He will become the strongest in that school and show everyone his power. Eventually, he will defeat his brother and become the head of the family. This time, he will surely be able to protect his sister.